Chapter 26. Draco Chatterbox. Rowling walked into Madame Malkin's robe shop and saw a pale and thin young man standing on a footstool at the back of the hall, and a witch was pinning other black robes with pins. "Hello, little wizard, are you here to order a wizard robe as well?" "Yes ma'am." Madame Malkin had Rowling stand on another footstool and put a robe on him, pinning it to the right length for him. "Hey, are you going to Hogwarts too?" "Yes," Rowling replied, looking at the silver-haired child next to him and thinking that this should be Draco Malfoy. "My father is next door buying books for me, and my mother went to the street to buy a wand," Malfoy said slowly and drawlingly. "Then I'm going to drag them to see the flying brooms. I don't understand why first years can't have their own flying brooms. I think I'm going to force my dad to buy me one, and then find a way to sneak it in." Rowling didn't respond and thought to himself, what a proud and arrogant little Malfoy. "Okay little wizard, the robe will be ready soon. Wait a moment." Rowling stepped down from the pedals and sat aside to wait. Malfoy followed Rowling and sat beside him. Malfoy suddenly pointed at Xiao Qi next to him. "Is this your pet? Flying squirrel? I plan to ask my dad to buy a snake as a pet, but Hogwarts doesn't seem to allow snakes as pets. But it doesn't matter, my dad is the school director." Rowling sat quietly waiting for the robe to be ready, thinking to himself, it turns out that Draco is still a chatterbox. "My name is Draco Malfoy, Malfoy from a pure-blood family of 28. What's your name?" "My dad is a Slytherin, so I will definitely go to Slytherin house." "My name is Rowling Gandalf." "Slytherin? A very good college." This inevitably reminded Rowling of Regulus Black. "Maybe I'll go to Gryffindor. My own blood. Gandalf family? I don't think I've heard of them. Why go to Gryffindor? My father said they are all reckless men." Draco raised his proud chin and said. Rowling knew that the underworld was not about fighting and killing, but about human relationships and worldly wisdom. He might as well make friends with the Malfoy family. Draco Malfoy did not want to become an evil wizard, he was more helpless. After following the Dark Lord, Draco's grandfather became deceased, and Lucius Malfoy, who was still in school at the time, had to support the family by himself. Draco does have the qualities of a Slytherin, he is still kind and pursues glory. At this moment, Llewellyn was thinking secretly in his heart. He knew that if he wanted to convince the other party and show his true strength, he must take action. Only then can you interact with others on an equal footing. Then he stood up, and a mysterious aura gushed out of him. His whole body was emitting a faint but dazzling light, as dazzling as the stars twinkling in the night sky. At the same time, his plain grey robe began to flutter gently, like a flag swaying in the breeze. What was even more peculiar was that the breeze seemed to only swirl around Llewellyn's body, like a loyal guardian, never leaving him. Then, Rowling looked at Draco firmly and said in a low and powerful voice, "The reason is simple, it's because the noble blood of the great Godric Gryffindor flows in my body." These words were like a thunder that split the sky, shocking people's hearts. Draco was obviously frightened by this sudden change. He stood up in horror, staring at everything happening in front of him with wide eyes. Looking at the glimmering light around Rowling and the robes dancing in the wind, he couldn't help but stammer in response. "Hello. Hello, it's a pleasure to meet you, Mr. Rowling Gryffindor." "Oh, no, please forgive my slip of the tongue, I should call you Sir Rowling Gandalf." The words were full of awe and admiration. Draco's attitude instantly became respectful, as if he realized that he had met an extraordinary person. He stopped talking too much. Rowling found it funny to see Draco trying so hard to act like a little adult, but he also felt that he had gone too far and scared the child to the point of stuttering. Rowling discovered that although Draco appeared arrogant on the surface, he had his own ideals and pursuits deep in his heart. "Just call me Rowling. Draco hopes to be able to call you that." "Of course, Rowling," Draco said with a smile. Madame Malkin was also shocked by the scene just now. An 11-year-old little wizard actually had such a strong energy fluctuation in his body. He must be even more powerful in the future. And he is a descendant of Gryffindor. Has the Gryffindor family that disappeared for a long time appeared again? Madame Malkin said carefully, "Two little wizards, the clothes are ready." Rowling took some wizard robes and said, "Thank you, Madame Malkin. After the transaction is completed. See you at Hogwarts, Draco." Rowling said softly, then turned and walked away slowly, his figure gradually disappearing into the distance. Looking at Rowling's receding figure, Draco felt a complex emotion in his heart. He knew that he still needed to wait for his parents to arrive, but at this moment, he could no longer calm down. Because he had just made such a powerful and special friend Rowling. Thinking of his father's reaction after hearing the news, Draco couldn't help but get excited. He seemed to see the proud smile on his father's face and hear his father's praise and affirmation of him. After all, it was not easy to establish such a deep friendship with the descendants of Gryffindor. Draco couldn't help but recall the moments he had just had with Rowling. At this moment, Draco couldn't wait to see his father and tell him about this wonderful experience. He wanted to tell his father how cleverly he dealt with various situations and how he showed his unique charm to win such an excellent partner as Rowling. Draco stood there happily, looking forward to his father's return. He believed that after hearing his story, his father would be very proud of having such an outstanding son. Soon, the news that a descendant of Gryffindor blood appeared here spread like wildfire in Diagon Alley. Don't ask, even if you ask Madame Malkin, she won't admit that it was she who said it. Little dragon! You said that you and the descendant of Gryffindor became close brothers? And you conquered him with your powerful charm. Lucius Malfoy said as he looked at his only son as if he were a fool. Are you sure he is a descendant of Gryffindor? Of course, if Dad doesn't believe me you can ask Madame Malkin. Lucius Malfoy's narrow and sharp eyes flashed with a light of inquiry and thought, and he looked directly at Madame Malkin. He frowned slightly, as if he wanted to get a definite answer from her. Chapter 27 King Station. Madame Malkin felt the gaze from Lucius Malfoy. She straightened up, and said in a firm and confident tone, in my opinion, he is most likely the man. The powerful magic he just displayed was truly astonishing. If it were any other family, they wouldn't have to deliberately conceal their own strength, but would rather show it off. Hearing this, Lucius Malfoy thought to himself. He was of course aware of his son Draco's usual temper, and he must have been influenced by him to speak outrageously. However, it seemed that Draco must have indeed met the legendary Gryffindor descendant. Thinking of this, Lucius Malfoy couldn't help but reveal a barely perceptible smile, and whispered to Draco beside him, Xiao Long, you must get along well with this person. At the same time, the camera turned to Luo Lin on the other side. At this time, he was happily completing the relatively simple task of purchasing the necessary items for school admission. Before long, everything was ready. Because he was the only one at home and had no intention of buying an owl, he then happily took Xiao Ke into an ice cream shop and began to enjoy this delicious dessert feast. The two of them talked and laughed while tasting the unique and sweet ice creams, feeling very comfortable. Finally, on September 9th, Luo Lin and Xiao Ke arrived at King's Cross Station. Compared with others who were carrying large and small bags, Luo Lin was very comfortable with his hands empty, and Xiao Ke hid in Luo Lin's pocket and stuck his head out to look out. Wait sir, then do you know which train leaves at 11? No kid, there's number 11 o'clock train here. Just as Harry Potter was getting more and more anxious, he heard someone shouting platform 9. From behind. He turned around and saw a group of red-haired people pushing a luggage cart like his. Harry knew that this must be a wizard family. Hello, ma'am, my name is Harry Potter. Could you please tell me where platform 9 3/4 is? Oh! Harry Potter, the boy who lived. The Weasley twins shouted loudly. Shut up George, Fred, Mrs. Weasley scolded. Rowling saw everything from the back and had to say that Mrs. Weasley was such a kind and considerate person. Telling Harry Potter that he was the boy who survived a catastrophe was like saying that Harry Potter's father was dead and his mother was dead. I'm really worried about the Weasley twins' emotional intelligence. Hello Harry, of course it's no problem. Now all you have to do is walk straight to the wall between platforms 9 and 10. If you're nervous you'd better jog. Good luck. Thank you. Then Harry Potter pushed his luggage and trotted into the wall. Seeing this, Luo Lin stopped hiding and walked to platform 9 3/4. When Luo Lin entered the wall, there was a burst of darkness, and then suddenly the sky became bright and a steam train whistled. It seems that the train is about to depart, and Rowling can no longer see Harry Potter. Luo Lin walked into the train, found an empty carriage and sat down. Xiao Ke came out of his pocket and looked around curiously. At this time, a familiar voice came, Hi, Luo Lin, we meet again. Hello, Harry Potter, Rowling responded with a fake smile, thinking to himself, what a bad fate. Could Harry Potter tell Rowling that he had been looking for him everywhere as soon as he got on the train? Harry Potter gradually whispered, actually, you can just call me Harry, and his snow-white face turned slightly red. Rowling couldn't help but laugh when he saw this. The child's thoughts were really written on his face. It seems that this king is so handsome. Rowling couldn't help but want to tease Harry Potter again. Ah? What Harry Potter are you talking about? Can you speak louder? I didn't hear it clearly. Of course Rowling heard it. Not only that, he could even hear the croaking of the toads outside. Harry summoned up his courage and said loudly, Rowling, just call me Harry. Oh shit, you scared me so much, it was so loud, I thought you were going to confess. I know Harry. Harry's face turned red instantly. No, it's not that. I just think you would be a good friend, Harry said shyly. Rowling took out his wand and pointed it at Harry to restore blood pressure. A green light shone into Harry's body. Harry felt his face was no longer hot, and his complexion returned to normal. Harry Potter looked at Rowling in confusion. A little magic. When people are excited or shy, their blood vessels will constrict and their blood pressure will rise. The hemoglobin in the blood will make people blush. I just restored your blood pressure to normal. You're welcome, Llewellyn said. Damn it, I should have known not to tease him earlier. This reaction was too big. If others saw it, they would think I did something shameful. At this moment, the door of the carriage was suddenly opened. Excuse me, can I sit here? All other places are full, said a little red-haired wizard. Just sit down, Harry Potter replied. My name is Ron, Ron Weasley. My name is Harry, Harry Potter. Lorraine Gandalf, please give me your guidance. Harry Potter, then, do you really have that on your head? What? Scar. Harry Potter lifted his bangs and said. Llewellyn watched the conversation between the two people, as if he was rehearsing a script. The movie has come true. Do you want to buy anything, kids? A fat woman pushed a snack cart and shouted as she walked down the aisle. No, thank you, I brought it, Ron refused while holding up the canned sandwich his mother made. Sure enough, the following classic upstart plot happened. Harry Potter saw Ron's embarrassment, took out a handful of gold galleons from his pocket and said generously, I take them all. Llewellyn also pretended to shout in surprise with Ron. Llewellyn knew that he should always keep a low profile when making friends. Sometimes playing dumb might bring unexpected gains. Harry Potter looked at Rowling, his eyes full of doubts. He knew that Rowling had earned 5,000 gold galleons at Gringotts. Rowling imitated Dumbledore and winked at Harry Potter with his left eye. Rowling also became curious about so many magical foods, and Zyok was already eating them with relish. Oh! Llewellyn, is this your pet? A squirrel with wings? How amazing! Now Zyok is immune to flying squirrels. Ha ha ha, a contracted beast of our family. Amazing! I also have a pet. His name is Banban, a big rat. My brother gave him to me as a pet. I like him very much. I often sleep with him at night. Llewellyn and Xiaoke looked at each other. Llewellyn couldn't help but smile when he heard this, and he laughed in his heart. Sharing a bed with a dwarf. How interesting! Ron picked up his wand and said, Fred taught me a spell that will turn Scabbers yellow. Do you want to see it? Just as Ron was about to cast a spell, the door of the carriage was rudely opened, and a little witch looked around inside, raised her chin and asked, Has anyone seen a toad? A boy named Nai lost one. Rowling couldn't help but frown when he saw this. This must be Hermione Granger, so rude. No wonder Ron said she had no friends. Chapter 28. Hermione Granger. Oh! Are you going to cast magic? Come on, start quickly so that we can all feast our eyes. Rowling finally couldn't hold back his inner impulse, and Hermione raised her increasingly arrogant chin high, as if she wanted to pierce someone with this move. Those provocative words that came out of her mouth seemed more like a condescending instruction and teaching rather than a simple wish to witness a wonderful performance. Just as Hermione was about to step into the carriage and sit down, Rowling quickly raised his wand and muttered something. In an instant, a powerful whirlwind arose, sweeping over like a fierce torrent. In the blink of an eye, Hermione was mercilessly blown out of the car by the strong wind, and then fell heavily on the hard ground. At the same time, accompanied by a loud bang sound from the car door, Rowling closed it tightly without hesitation. This series of amazing changes shocked Harry Potter and Ron, who were standing by. They had never expected Rowling to do such a thing. They were dumbfounded, their mouths wide open, and they couldn't speak for a long time. After a long while, they woke up from a dream and shouted in unison, "Wow, Rowling, you are amazing! How did you do it?" However, Hermione had no time to appreciate Rowling's strength at the moment. She was in a state of disgrace after the unexpected disaster she had just suffered. When the strong wind threw her out of the carriage, she lost her balance and fell straight to the ground. As the door of the carriage slammed shut with a deafening sound, Hermione's originally fair face instantly turned red, like a ripe apple. Her anger was beyond words. She stood up in a rage, clenched her fists, and smashed the closed door fiercely, shouting loudly while smashing, "Open the door! Open the door for me! You bunch of damned guys!" Every punch was thrown with full force, making crisp bang, bang, bang sounds, as if the entire carriage was going to be smashed to pieces. Ron and Harry were startled by the banging on the door, and only now realized that Rowling had blown the little girl out. Harry watched as Rowling ignored the knocking on the door and asked quietly, "Rowling, do you want to open it? It wouldn't be good if other people saw it." Llewellyn was convinced. It was indeed too eye-catching to be surrounded by people before he even entered school. "Open it!" As soon as he finished speaking, Ron opened the car door. Hermione rushed in angrily, pointing at Rowling and shouting, "How dare you do this to me? Apologize to me now. This is too much." Rowling stared at Hermione, who was talking non-stop, with an indifferent look on his face. He suddenly raised his wand, his eyes as sharp as a knife, and warned her in a cold tone, "If you dare to say another word, don't blame me for ruthlessly expelling you again." Hermione was frightened by Rowling's sudden action, and her whole body trembled. She pursed her lips tightly and closed them in an instant, not daring to make another sound. Seeing this, Llewellyn did not give up, but continued to rebuke him fiercely, "I can't help but ask, little wizard, has your family never taught you what basic manners are? You know, this is our private box, but you barged in without any scruples. Even the most basic etiquette of knocking is ignored? Even a simple greeting is not given? Is this what is called education? When you ask others questions, as a wizard lady, can you be so at ease and justified? Humph, if you really want to broaden your horizons and gain more knowledge, shouldn't you first learn to be humble and lower your self-righteous head a little? After all, only by maintaining such an attitude can it be called a true attitude of learning, rather than being like a proud and arrogant rooster, just standing there with its head held high and chest puffed out, crowing loudly." With each of Rowling's powerful words, Hermione's head, which had been held high, lowered a little involuntarily, and the extremely angry expression on her face was gradually replaced by shame. Finally, Hermione seemed unable to bear such heavy pressure any longer. She whispered in a voice as thin as a mosquito, "I'm sorry. I was too rude." Before she finished her words, she hurriedly fled out of the carriage like a frightened rabbit. "Rowling, you were so cool just now." As the train sped along, the stars in the sky slowly appeared. Finally the train arrived at the station. Rowling reminded them to put on the wizard robes. Ron and Harry took out their luggage and searched. Rowling flipped his hand and a black wizard robe appeared in his hand. When Harry Ron saw this, he exclaimed in surprise, "Rowling, how did you do that?" Llewellyn showed the space ring and said, "It's a storage ring, just like a box with the traceless extension spell." "Cool." After getting off the bus, Harry finally saw Hagrid again. After greeting Hagrid, all the freshmen, led by Hagrid, boarded the boat to Hogwarts. Rowling followed behind and looked around. He saw Hogwarts towering across the lake, and the candlelight in the castle windows was brighter than the starry sky. Walking up the long staircase of Hogwarts, Professor McGonagall, who had been waiting for a long time, was standing at the door of the auditorium. "Welcome to Hogwarts," said Professor McGonagall. Afterwards, Professor McGonagall described the upcoming sorting ceremony and turned back to the auditorium. Just as Rowling was still looking around, a familiar voice sounded beside him, "Hey! Rowling, we meet again in Hogwarts." Rowling also responded to Malfoy. Just when Malfoy was about to explore further with Rowling, Harry Potter came over. When Malfoy saw Harry Potter, he immediately said to him, "The rumors on the train are true. Harry Potter has come to Hogwarts." My name is Malfoy, Draco Malfoy. At this moment Ron suddenly laughed. Rowling watched all this with great interest. Draco means dragon in Latin, and Malfoy has always been a synonym for evil dark wizards in the eyes of the Weasley family. So why did Ron laugh? He probably took Draco's introduction as, I am an evil dragon. But it was indeed rude, no wonder they wanted to fight each other. Anyway, from what I observed on the train just now, Ron is indeed a polite little guy, so he probably couldn't help it. Llewellyn didn't want to get involved in the feud between the two families, it would be a mess. Then Draco immediately pointed the finger at Ron. You think my name is funny? I know who you are at first glance. Red hair and old robes, you must be a Weasley. You will soon find that some wizarding families are just more advanced. You don't want to make friends with this kind of scum, do you? I can be your friend. I can still tell good from bad, thanks, Harry replied. Oh, what a famous scene. Draco's words are really poisonous. Humiliating Ron in public. These little wizards are equivalent to wizard families. Isn't this rubbing the face of the Weasley family on the ground? No wonder the two of them are fighting to the death. As soon as he finished speaking, Professor McGonagall appeared in front of the little wizard as if it had been arranged. What a lot of coincidences. It was as if he was deliberately trying to make Harry Potter and Dracula hate each other. From King's Cross Station, Hagrid asked Harry Potter to find platform 9 3/4 alone, and his sudden disappearance was too obvious and abrupt. However, when getting off the train, Hagrid appeared next to the locomotive again, and took the young wizard to the hall, indicating that Hagrid's mission was to escort the young wizard. That can only mean that Hagrid has been hiding on the train. And what happened during the sudden disappearance? The Weasley family suddenly appeared. First of all, it should be made clear that the Weasley family, as a pure-blood wizard family, has always lived in a mysterious and fantasy magical world, which has nothing to do with the ordinary Muggle world. For this reason, when they need to embark on the journey to Hogwarts, it is easy to find the path to the magic train. There is no need to go to King's Cross Station and then look for the magical entrance hidden between platforms 9 and 10, platform 9 3/4, as those who are not familiar with magic do. But what is the meaning behind this? Why does it take such a long detour? Perhaps the answer lies in that seemingly coincidental but actually deliberate encounter, the moment when Ron and Harry Potter first met. Secondly, the details of how Ron and Harry Potter met. I have to admit that this plot is really confusing. You know, Ron was not the only one in the same carriage at that time. In addition, there were also the twin brothers of the Weasley family, Percy Weasley, and other members. Logically, Ron should have had many seats to choose from, but he walked straight to Harry without hesitation and took the initiative to start a meaningful conversation. What is particularly striking is that the information Ron shared with Harry during their conversation actually showed a clear tendency. Describing Slytherin College as a place full of evil and composed of dark wizards. Such remarks undoubtedly left a very bad impression on Harry, who had just entered the magical world, and made him have a strong prejudice against Slytherin. Until the conflict between Draco and Ron just now, the possibility of Harry Potter entering Slytherin was completely cut off. If it weren't for these twists and turns, the Sorting Hat might have really sorted Harry Potter into Slytherin. Dumbledore is so calculating. I'd better stay away from them. Rowling thought to himself. Following the professor's lead, Rowling and other young wizards walked into the Great Hall. The 4 colleges in the hall were clearly separated, with countless candles floating in the sky. All the staff of Hogwarts sat in the front, watching the arrival of all the young wizards. On a high stool in front of the hall, there was an ancient hat, which must be the Sorting Hat. Before the sorting, Headmaster Dumbledore has a few words to say. I would like to announce a few things that must be paid attention to in the new semester. First-year students, please note that students are strictly prohibited from entering the Forbidden Forest. In addition, our administrator Mr. Filch asked me to remind you that if you don't want to die miserably, do not enter the corridor on the right side of the 3rd floor. Thank you. All right, now the sorting ceremony will begin. Please ask the little wizard whose name is called to come forward. Hannah Abbott. Hufflepuff. As the Sorting Hat sorted out the first house, warm applause and cheers broke out from the Hufflepuff table. As soon as Harry Potter was pronounced, all the professors turned their attention here. And Harry Potter kept muttering, "Don't go to Slytherin, don't go to Slytherin, don't go to Slytherin." The voice of the Sorting Hat also sounded in Harry Potter's mind, "Don't go to Slytherin? You will achieve great things. You have everything you need in your head, and Slytherin can help you reach the top, there is no doubt about that." "Well, since you are so sure, then Gryffindor." The Gryffindor table all stood up excitedly. Dumbledore also paid tribute to Harry Potter. Gandalf Rowling. Rowling stepped forward, and Draco, Harry and Potter all turned their eyes over. Rowling took a deep breath and slowly put the mysterious and ancient Sorting Hat on his head. He waited for the hat to make a decision. After a moment, the Sorting Hat's low and magnetic voice sounded in his ears, "Well, you seem to have some secrets in your mind that you don't want to reveal, but of course it's not important. I feel wisdom, creativity, visionary ideas, and courage and boldness at the same time. This really makes me feel embarrassed. Little wizard, you actually have the excellent qualities of both Ravenclaw and Gryffindor. So, tell me, which college do you prefer to go to?" "Gryffindor." Rowling's voice was firm and powerful, as if he was ready to meet future challenges. Hearing this answer, Harry Potter at the long table's eyes sparkled with excitement. He couldn't help but applaud loudly, with an ecstatic expression on his face. Draco on the other side looked very disappointed. His confident smile disappeared in an instant, replaced by a face full of frustration. At the same time, the entire Gryffindor house erupted in thunderous applause and cheers, giving Rowling a warm welcome. Their enthusiasm burned like a flame, lighting up the entire hall. Rowling walked towards the Gryffindor table with a firm step, feeling countless eyes focused on him along the way. Rowling smiled and nodded to everyone, then began to introduce himself. "Hello everyone, my name is Rowling. I believe that here, we will spend many unforgettable times together and face various difficulties and challenges together. Let us work together and strive for the honor of Gryffindor." His words were concise and clear, but full of passion and determination. Finally the branch is over. Now the dinner begins. In the blink of an eye, a large number of mouth-watering delicacies suddenly appeared on the empty table, which shocked Llewellyn. He stared at the piles of fried chicken and chicken legs in disbelief, as if these delicacies had fallen from the sky. Rowling was deeply attracted by the scene before him. He couldn't wait to grab a golden and crispy fried chicken, take a big bite, and feel the tender and juicy chicken bursting in his mouth. However, he did not forget Zioke beside him. While everyone was not paying attention, he quietly picked up a piece of fragrant ham and quickly stuffed it into Zioke's hand. When the sumptuous dinner was coming to an end, a miracle happened again. A dazzling array of desserts appeared on the table. Zioke's eyes were instantly attracted by these exquisite and lovely desserts, and his eyes were wide open, flashing with excitement. Xiao Ke could no longer suppress his inner joy, and he began to taste the cake without hesitation. He first carefully picked up a small and exquisite piece of cake, gently put it into his mouth, and savored the sweet and delicate taste. Then, he put another spoonful of ice cream into his mouth, feeling the wonderful taste of cold and sweet. Every bite was a kind of enjoyment. Xiao Ke was immersed in it, and kept praising these delicious dishes. Chapter 29. Am I fired? As the dinner was about to end, Dumbledore took out his wand and put it against his throat, casting an amplifying spell. "Idiot! Crybaby! Scum! Twist! Thank you all!" At this moment, thunderous applause and cheers rang out from the audience, as if to overturn the entire auditorium. However, amidst the noise, Llewellyn keenly caught the whispers coming from the side. "Is he a little crazy?" He looked in the direction of the voice, and sure enough, the people speaking were the group of Weasley children. Perhaps, at this moment, Rowling was the only one among all the freshmen who truly understood the deep meaning of it. When Headmaster Dumbledore uttered those strange words, a wonderful and mysterious power quietly descended. Rowling clearly felt the trace of magical energy in his body. It was as if he was being summoned by something. He was involuntarily attracted by those words and flowed out continuously, directly into the magnificent Hogwarts castle in front of him. This feeling is like an invisible pass, giving them the right to freely enter and exit this magic palace at any time and anywhere. As long as they are still in the school stage, they can step into Hogwarts as they please. As expected, Rowling deeply realized that his trip to Hogwarts was not in vain. He had been thinking hard in that dark, deep, and isolated forest, trying to figure out the secrets of the magic world on his own. However, it now seemed that this closed-door approach was obviously not feasible. The sorting principle followed by the sorting hat is actually a clever and precise way of allocation. It can see through the hidden qualities of each little wizard and send them to the most suitable college. On the surface, the phrase idiot, crybaby, scumbag, screw up seems to have nothing to do with the various colleges, but as long as you calm down and savor it carefully, it is not difficult to understand the deep meaning contained in it. Take Ravenclaw House, for example. There are many extremely intelligent people here. They are gifted and quick-witted, so they naturally think that others are relatively stupid. Gryffindor is known for its bravery and fearlessness. Those warriors are brave and fearless, so they may regard others as cowards, the so-called crybabies. As for Slytherin, most of its members come from famous families, are self-important and arrogant, and naturally regard others as lowly and humble dregs. Finally, let's look at Hufflepuff House. The students of this house have always upheld the qualities of integrity and kindness. In their eyes, those who behave improperly and have ulterior motives are undoubtedly twisted beings. This strange magic fascinated Llewellyn. A few simple words could have such a conception. This is true genius, Llewellyn was convinced. This is called simplifying the complex. After the dinner, Rowling followed the Gryffindor prefect to the Gryffindor Tower. On the way, the prefect kept introducing Hogwarts. The prefect of Gryffindor was Percy Weasley. There are many secret passages in the castle, some have been discovered and some have been forgotten, and no one knows where they lead to. Don't underestimate the murals on my wall, there is a high possibility that there is a secret passage behind them. Next we will come to the spiral staircase. Be careful not to go the wrong way. If you go the wrong way, you may end up in a forbidden area of the school. The Gryffindor dormitory is on the 8th floor. There is a portrait of the fat lady here. You can enter as long as you say the right password. Rowling followed the little wizard from Gryffindor into the common room. The walls were covered with murals. Percy went on to say that this was a common room and loud noises were not allowed. The boys' dormitory was on the left and the girls' dormitory was on the right. Your luggage has been sent to your dormitories by the house elves. You can go find it on your own. Remember to go to the auditorium for lunch tomorrow morning, and don't be late for class. Good night, everyone. As soon as Percy finished speaking, the little wizards applauded at the same time. At this moment, Harry Potter and Ron came up again and said, "Rowling, let's go find a dormitory together." Okay, Harry and Ron soon found their dormitories, but Rowling did not see his name. Not only Harry and Ron were surprised, but Rowling was also dumbfounded. Ron suddenly said, "Rowling, you're not going to be expelled from school, are you? Why is your dormitory gone?" "Rowling, I think I'll go find the prefect." "I'll go with you. Percy is actually my brother but I don't like him very much. He always likes to teach me a lesson. But for the sake of our friendship, I'm willing to go with you." "Llewellyn, thank you." "Ron, do you know which dormitory your brother is in?" "Of course." Soon the three kids came to a separate dormitory. Llewellyn knocked on the door. "What's the matter, oh little Ronnie? Why are you here too?" Rowling replied, "Hello, Prefect Percy, my name is Rowling Gandalf. I can't find my dormitory. Can you help me? Is there such a thing? Wait a minute, let me check it out." "Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Rowling's dormitory is assigned by the elves according to the name of the luggage. The house elves didn't seem to find your luggage, so they didn't assign you a dormitory. I checked and found that the 4-person dormitories are full. There is an empty dormitory next to it. If you don't mind, you can live there. This dormitory next to it is a private dormitory that only prefects can have. I will report to Dean McGonagall tomorrow and that's all." "Yes, of course I don't mind. Thank you for your thoughtfulness, Prefect Percy." Rowling's hand flashed, and he took out a low-level magic crystal from the space ring. This was dropped by a low-level magic creature, Purple Lightning Red Stripe Mang, that Rowling killed in the dark forest. A red crystal the size of a pigeon egg has purple stripes inside, which seems to contain a little bit of lightning properties. Percy was surprised by the sudden appearance of the small crystal, and what surprised him even more was that Rowling actually gave him this crystal. Percy knew that this must be very valuable. Ordinary crystals could be worth a lot of gold galleons, not to mention that this seemed to contain magical power. Percy repeatedly declined. Rowling said helplessly, "Senior Percy, please don't mind. As a member of the Gandalf family, our family rules state that anyone who shows kindness to you will be regarded as a witness of friendship by the Gandalf family. This is just the beginning of our friendship. Please don't refuse, unless you don't value the friendship of our Gandalf family. Anyway, I am the only one in the Gandalf family, so I made it up. Rowling firmly believes that there is only one who despises worthless things, and there is nothing that cannot be given away. Okay, I, Percy Weasley, am willing to establish friendship with the Gandalf family. Then he took the floating crystal with his hand. Then he said, "Here is the key, Rowling, you can go over anytime." Ron looked at the dazzling magic crystal stupidly. How much gold galleons must it be worth? He admitted that he was jealous. My dear brother Percy, your dear little brother Ronnie is still wearing the old robe at home, do you think it is possible? Before Ron could finish his words, Percy had already slammed the door shut. Percy couldn't let go of the crystal in his hand. Damn Percy, I must write a letter to tell Mom and Dad that he bullied his brother. Ron said in a funny way. Okay, thank you Ron. Harry, good night and see you tomorrow. Okay, good night, Rowling. Chapter 30. Breakthrough. Llewellyn walked briskly into the single dormitory that belonged to him, and saw Zyok float out of his pocket lightly. Entering the room, the first thing that catches your eye is the huge and bright floor-to-ceiling window, which seems to be a picture scroll leading to another world. The night light shines through the glass onto the ground, forming patches of mottled light and shadow. In the center of the room, there was a large bed that exuded a strong European classical atmosphere. The headboard was beautifully carved with patterns, and the bedspread was made of gorgeous satin fabric, giving people a sense of nobility and elegance. Llewellyn slowly approached the bed, gently stroking the soft bed, and an inexplicable warmth surged in his heart. His eyes began to wander around, carefully looking at the dormitory. The walls were covered with bright red wallpaper, as warm and unrestrained as a burning flame. The thick carpet under his feet could feel the softness and comfort with every step he took. This arrangement filled the whole room with warmth and tranquility. Llewellyn walked to the window, opened it, and the fresh air rushed in. He looked up at the twinkling stars in the night sky, and felt particularly happy. Those stars were like bright gems inlaid on the black sky, shining brightly. They seemed to be telling him the mysteries of the universe and endless possibilities. Then, Rowling took out his luggage from the space ring he carried with him and placed it in the appropriate place in an orderly manner. After finishing the tidying up, he lay down tiredly on the extremely comfortable big bed and closed his eyes. Visions and expectations of his future life in Hogwarts school kept emerging in his mind. What challenges will he encounter here? What valuable experiences will he gain? Everything is unknown, but it is this uncertainty that makes him full of infinite curiosity and yearning for the future. Rowling slowly fell asleep. At this time, the three people in Harry Potter's dormitory had already gone to bed, namely Ron Weasley, Neville Longbottom, and Seamus Finnegan. Only Harry was sitting by the window in pajamas, looking into the distance. The next morning, the dawn was just beginning to appear, and a faint light appeared on the horizon. Llewellyn slowly opened his eyes, knowing that it was time for his daily morning exercise again. He stood up quickly and neatly, waved the wand in his hand lightly, and said, "Clean up." In an instant, the washing work was completed perfectly. Then, Llewellyn walked to the window and gently opened it. He looked up at the sky that was gradually getting brighter and took a deep breath of fresh air. This breath seemed to have injected a magical power, making him immediately refreshed and energetic. At this moment, Xiao Ke, who had been hiding in Llewellyn's pocket, also poked his head out. However, before Xiao Ke could react, Llewellyn suddenly jumped up and jumped directly out of the open window. As it got closer and closer to the ground, when it was about to reach the ground, a pair of huge wings spread out from Rowling's back. "Wow, this feeling is so exciting!" Llewellyn shouted excitedly. At this moment, he finally understood why there were so many wealthy people on the Blue Planet in his previous life who were keen on thrilling sports such as wingsuit flying and skydiving. The pleasure brought by the rapid surge of adrenaline is simply irresistible and you can't stop yourself from being completely immersed in it. Rowling came to the Black Lake and felt the rich water element here. It seems that Hogwarts is really a powerful magical sanctuary. From the Black Lake, it can be seen that practicing magic here, no matter what attribute of magic, can be greatly improved. Llewellyn muttered to himself, Tai Chi is born from Wuji. It is the mechanism of movement and stillness, the mother of yin and yang. Yin is inseparable from yang, and yang is inseparable from yin. When yin and yang complement each other, they all reach the divine sound. When the mind is calm and the body is upright, the mind and energy are flowing. Open and empty, unity of inside and outside. Use softness to preserve strength, use both hardness and softness. Tai Chi yin and yang, softness and hardness. Hardness and softness, stillness and freedom. The body moves with it. Every movement, every punch and kick, accurately mobilizes the mysterious and powerful magic flow in the body. As the moves were continuously performed, Luo Lin gradually became immersed in them. He was completely focused and had no distractions, as if the whole world had stopped. At this moment, he seemed to be integrated with the surrounding environment, becoming the only existence in this world. His breathing became steady and deep, and every breath seemed to absorb the essence of nature. His eyes were focused and sharp, revealing an unparalleled confidence and determination. At this moment, the solid ground beneath Luo Lin's feet began to ripple, like a calm lake being blown by a breeze. Then, these ripples gradually gathered into a huge and clear Tai Chi pattern, with black and white colors interweaving with each other, like the symbiosis of yin and yang. This Tai Chi diagram exudes a faint but heart-pounding light, and it seems to contain endless mysteries and power. Luo Lin stood in the center of this magical pattern, feeling an unprecedented sense of tranquility and peace of mind. He knew that through this hard practice, he had finally touched a higher level. At this time, the sky was already bright, and Luo Lin went to the auditorium to have dinner. As soon as he entered the hall, Rowling saw many people sitting at the Hufflepuff table. It seems that loving food is indeed the hobby of every little wizard in Hufflepuff. Rowling walked slowly with light steps to an empty seat. Just as he sat down, it seemed as if a mysterious force was quietly operating. A sumptuous breakfast appeared out of thin air and appeared in front of Luo Lin without any warning. Rowling thought to himself, there is no doubt that this must be the magic of the Hogwarts house elves, which transported this delicious breakfast directly from the kitchen to here. He looked carefully and saw on the table a cup of steaming fresh milk with a rich milky aroma, a piece of soft, sweet and fragrant bread, 2 pieces of crispy bacon that were fried to perfection and sizzling with oil, and a round, plump, golden and tempting poached egg. Luo Lin whispered softly, and he could not wait to reach out and grab the bread that looked so appetizing, and put it into his mouth without hesitation and took a big bite. In an instant, the wonderful taste flowed on the tip of his tongue like a spring. The taste was extremely crispy, and every bite was filled with a rich and mellow wheat aroma, which made people intoxicated and unable to extricate themselves. Is this bread made from magical wheat grown from magical seeds? Luo Lin's eyes widened, his face full of disbelief. This unprecedented taste experience was so shocking that he couldn't help but sigh again and again. At this moment, an incomparable sense of satisfaction surged in my heart. No wonder Hufflepuff has become the place with the most little wizards among the 4 colleges. After all, here, you can enjoy such delicious food at any time. And it is said that their dormitory is very close to the kitchen, which is simply a paradise for foodies. Thinking of this, Luo Lin couldn't help but show a happy and satisfied smile on his face. Chapter 31, Eye of the Elements. After finishing his breakfast with satisfaction, Rowling began to wander around the castle and slowly approached the floor where the Transfiguration classroom was located. As Luo Lin walked, he looked around curiously. He saw many ghosts wandering around, and many little wizards were looking for the classroom for the first class and asking about the characters in the paintings. At this moment, Luo Lin realized that he still had a system. System. Hello host, long time no see. 666, Tongzi, I want to check in at Hogwarts. You won't say anything unless I tell you, right? Ding, check into Hogwarts successfully. Bonus Elemental Eye. Rowling tried to inject the magic power in his body into his eyes to activate the Eye of Elements. At this moment, he felt a hint of coolness in his eyes, and the flow of magic power in the surrounding air became clearly visible. He can see the colors and shapes of magical elements, which gives him a deeper understanding of magic. Luo Lin excitedly shuttled through the corridor, observing everything around him with the Eye of Elements. He found that the magic runes on the wall were shining faintly. This new perception ability made him intoxicated. Just as Luo Lin was enjoying the wonderful feeling brought by the Eye of Elements, a burst of hurried footsteps caught his attention. He turned around and saw a panicked student running over, muttering, it's over, I can't find the Transfiguration classroom." Luo Lin smiled and walked forward, pointing confidently to the front and said, "Follow me, I know the way." The sun shines through the stained glass windows into the spacious and bright Transfiguration classroom, and the mottled light and shadows are reflected on the ground. With anticipation and curiosity, Rowling gently pushes open the heavy wooden door and steps into this mysterious space. There were already groups of little wizards sitting in their seats in the classroom. They were talking in low voices, their eyes revealing their desire and excitement for new knowledge. Llewellyn glanced at these strange yet friendly faces, and finally chose an empty seat near the wall to sit down. He adjusted his sitting posture, took a deep breath, and tried to calm his excitement. Then, Rowling closed his eyes, concentrated his mind, and mobilized the hidden elemental power in his body. When he opened his eyes again, he activated the Eye of Elements and observed the magic power of the young wizards. For example, Neville Longbottom was a faint green light, and Seamus Finnegan was a richer red than that one. His eyes moved slowly, carefully observing every detail in the classroom. Suddenly, he noticed a colorful, lazy-looking tabby cat lying on the podium. However, under the observation of the Eye of Elements, this seemingly ordinary cat exudes an unusually strong magical element fluctuation. There is no doubt that it must be something extraordinary. This must be Professor McGonagall. At this moment, Professor McGonagall, who had her eyes closed, suddenly raised her head as if she had noticed something. Her sharp eyes followed the subtle fluctuations of magic power and met Rowling's focused gaze. In an instant, a wonderful feeling came over her, and she caught a glimmer of light from Rowling's eyes that was barely noticeable. Professor McGonagall could not help but feel surprised, but she was mostly delighted. Being able to perceive the changes in her own form so keenly, this child obviously had extraordinary talent and insight. For her, as the headmaster of Gryffindor House, this is undoubtedly a rising star. How can she not be happy? Llewellyn saw the tabby cat suddenly looked up at him. Llewellyn knew that he was discovered. He was too careless. Using the Eye of Elements in front of a powerful wizard was undoubtedly like lighting a lantern at night. A powerful wizard like Professor McGonagall would be able to sense it immediately. Rowling pretended to look at the ceiling and whistled. Xiao Ke looked at Rowling in his pocket. What a poor acting! Xiao Ke had just felt the change in Rowling's eyes and was surprised that his new master was so extraordinary and talented that he could use magic in this way. As time goes by, the little wizards have arrived at the classroom one after another. Just as Rowling was concentrating on immersing himself in the magical and vast ocean of magic elements, suddenly, a clear and loud shout broke the tranquil atmosphere like a thunderclap, pulling him back to reality from the wonderful fantasy world. "Hello, Rowling. I'm really sorry that yesterday's sorting ceremony did not enhance the friendship between us. My father specifically asked me to convey the sincere greetings from the Malfoy family." Rowling looked closely and saw that the person standing in front of him was Draco, who had a serious face and was speaking in an adult's tone. "Hey, don't mention it, this guy really looks like an adult at this moment." It was not until this moment that Rowling realized that this class was actually a class for Gryffindor and Slytherin to participate in together. It has to be said that Headmaster Dumbledore really has good intentions and shows his foresight all the time. After all, the two colleges have always been incompatible, one lives high up on the top floor of the castle, and the other is low-key and mysteriously hidden under the Black Lake. These two beings, who are so different from each other, are now cleverly arranged to take classes together, which shows how much thought has been put into it. "Good morning, Draco. Please also convey the Gandalf family's most sincere friendship to your father on my behalf." Rowling responded with a smile. Then Malfoy actually sat next to Rowling, which inevitably surprised Rowling. Is Draco Malfoy so brave? Rowling looked around. You know, at this moment, most of the Gryffindors were sitting together, and the little wizards from Slytherin were sitting on the other side. The cute and simple Draco is becoming more and more interesting. There was a lot of discussion in the audience. Why hasn't Professor McGonagall arrived yet? The little wizard kept discussing this. But at the same time, there were still two people who hadn't shown up yet. That's Harry and Ron. Rowling knew that the next moment was his social death. Rowling looked at the tabby cat that was originally lying on the podium. It was now half sitting up, staring straight at the door. Rowling was playing with the wand in his hand and waiting quietly. "Rowling, your wand is so special. It's something I've never seen before." Draco asked in surprise as he looked at the red wand with complicated patterns in Rowling's hand. Wizards choose wands, and wands also choose wizards. This treasure born in the sea exudes an indescribable charm. It is the manifestation of eternal wisdom. It is born with an incomparable noble temperament. The coral wand trembled slightly in response to Rowling's words. Then Rowling waved the wand, and a faint blue aurora appeared on the top of the wand and covered the sky in the classroom. All the little wizards looked at this magical scene curiously. "Teach me Rowling quickly, teach me Rowling quickly. Is this silent spell casting?" Draco said to Rowling with an obsessed look on his face. "Of course not. This is my wand. I just injected some magic power into it." Even Professor McGonagall was looking at him and said, "A new wizard can have such delicate control over magic. Fortunately, he is not a Slytherin." Suddenly, there was a snap, and the classroom door was pushed open. Draco didn't bother with Rowling anymore, and turned around to look. Rowling also retracted the magic transmission. Ron and Harry rushed in recklessly. "Oh, make it in time. If you're late, Professor McGonagall will be embarrassed." Rowling laughed softly from below, "The professor is about to catch you for talking behind his back. Little Ronnie, accept Professor McGonagall's punishment." As soon as Ron finished speaking, he saw the tabby cat on the podium jump down and turn into Professor Mike. "It's amazing. Thank you for your comments, Mr. Ron. Perhaps it would be better if I turned into something else, turning you and Mr. Potter into a watch so that at least one of you won't be late." "We are lost," Harry continued to explain. "So it's time to make a map. I want to find a location, but I don't need a map." After saying that, Professor McGonagall returned to the lecture hall. Harry Potter and Ron sat next to Hermione Granger. Because the seats in the back were all occupied by other young wizards, only the first row of the classroom was empty. As an excellent three-good student, Hermione Granger of course sat closest to the podium. Fortunately it wasn't Snape, otherwise these two people would be in a difficult position. A guy with a big dusha bag on his head is actually talking about the professor behind his back. Rowling watched with interest. Professor McGonagall returned to the podium, picked up her wand, and turned the desk into various animals. The little wizards kept making sounds of surprise. Chapter 32. I want you to be a hero. After that, Professor McGonagall began to explain the basics of transfiguration. She raised her wand and waved it gently, and a book turned into a dove, flying around the classroom, attracting the young wizards' amazement. Today, we are going to learn how to turn one object into another. This requires not only accurate pronunciation of the spell, but also fine control of magic power. Professor McGonagall said as she demonstrated, "Now, everyone can try to practice how to turn a toothpick into a needle." The young wizards picked up their wands and cast magic on the toothpicks on their desks. The items on the desks either remained unchanged or became strangely shaped. Professor McGonagall walked around the classroom, correcting their movements and spells. Rowling raised his wand and tapped it lightly, and a silver needle floated up. Exquisite control of magic, Gryffindor plus 2 points. Llewellyn was not satisfied with this. When Professor Mike had just transformed the podium into a vivid animal, Llewellyn used the Eye of Elements to observe that this was not a simple transformation magic. In Llewellyn's eyes, it looked like a real animal. He could only transform a dead object into another dead object. It seemed that transfiguration was also a complicated subject. After Rowling successfully performed his magic, others succeeded in turning toothpicks into needles one after another. Hermione and Granger were the best among them. Rowling had to admire her. Although Hermione was born with arrogance, she was indeed gifted in magic and was one of the best among the young wizards. As the little wizard was casting a spell, it was time to end the get out of class. Harry and Ron came over at the same time and said, "Rowling, you are so awesome." "Thank you, I just practiced more." Llewellyn smiled. "Hey, Rowling, next class is potions, are you ready?" Harry asked. "Well, I've already prepared for it, so it should be fine." When Rowling was in the dark forest, he often looked through his mother's potion notes from school. "That's good. I heard that Professor Snape is very strict. I'm a little worried." Ron scratched his head. "Don't worry, Ron. As long as you study hard, you will definitely pass." Rowling thought to himself, "I'm afraid your nightmare is coming." The three of them walked towards the potions classroom together. Along the way, they saw many other students also talking about this course. Hopefully today's potions class won't be too difficult. Harry muttered. The potions classroom was at the bottom of the castle. When Rowling arrived, Draco was already fiddling with various empty magic potion bottles. Seeing Rowling coming, Draco immediately stepped forward and said sarcastically to Harry Potter beside him, "Scarhead, are you only interested in pestering Rowling? If you have the time, you might as well look at the castle map, otherwise you'll get lost again." Just as Harry was about to fight back, the door opened with a bang and Snape walked quickly to the podium. When Rowling saw Professor Snape's robe fluttering in the wind with every step he took, he really looked a bit like a big bat. All the young wizards quickly returned to their seats. Instead, Snape's voice reached the ears of all the young wizards. "In my class, you are not allowed to wave your wands around foolishly or chant spells randomly. In fact, I don't think many of you can understand the profound science and sophisticated craftsmanship of making potions. However, for those few top students who really have this intention, I can teach you to truly understand the liquid that penetrates into people's blood vessels, the kind of magical power that makes people's hearts and minds excited and confused. I will teach you to improve your reputation, brew glory, and even teach you how to make the water of immortality. But I don't want you to be those fools. Then again, maybe some of you have already acquired extraordinary abilities when you came to Hogwarts, and are confident enough to think that you don't have to concentrate on my lectures." At this time, Snape's eyes were already fixed on Harry Potter, who was writing furiously. "Mr. Potter, tell me, what would happen if you added narcissus root powder to wormwood stem liquid?" As soon as Snape finished asking the question, Hermione Granger immediately raised her hand high, and our Mr. Harry Potter looked at all this with a confused look on his face. Rowling stood beside Draco, staring deeply at the scene where Snape asked Harry Potter questions. Narcissus symbolizes love, while wormwood represents pain. At this moment, Snape seemed to be using these flowers to hint at the bitter emotions in his heart, perhaps his tortured love. And narcissus root powder added to wormwood stem liquid will produce water of life and death. Or it may be the endless pain brought by Lily's death. "I don't know, Professor," Harry Potter replied bewilderedly. Snape frowned slightly and continued to ask, "Don't you know? Then, Mr. Potter, please tell me, if I need Bezoar, where should I find it?" Bezoar has the effect of detoxification. Combined with the previous metaphor about painful love, is Snape trying to find how to resolve his own pain? However, Harry Potter still shook his head, indicating that he didn't know the answer. Then, Snape raised a new question: what is the difference between Aconitum naviculare and Aconitum wolfsbane? Aconitum naviculare means full of malice, while the flowers of Aconitum wolfsbane contain the meaning of being born for love and being strong and unyielding. Although there is actually no significant difference between the two types of Aconitum, does this mean that even though Snape appears to be harsh and ruthless and hostile to Harry Potter's father, his deep love for Lily prompted him to persevere and hope that Harry Potter could grow up to be a true hero? Apparently, fame alone isn't enough, is it? Mr. Potter. Finally, Snape's summary seems to be saying that if you want to be a hero, you can't be flashy. "Oh, Professor. Obviously Hermione Granger next door knows, why don't you ask her?" Rowling covered his head with his hands and sighed inwardly, "Oh my God, little Harry, do you think Snape is McGonagall? How dare you talk back to the professor? You're screwed." Harry Potter talked back to the professor. "Gryffindor will lose 5 points." Snape saw Rowling sighing there and immediately stared at him. "Then please answer these questions for me, Mr. Rowling." Rowling was surprised. He didn't expect Snape to point at him, but he still answered. "Yes, Professor. If you add narcissus root powder to wormwood stem liquid, it will make life and death water. Bezoar can be found in the cow's stomach. There is no difference between Aconitum naviculatum and Aconitum davidianum." Seeing Rowling answering the question, Snape stopped looking at him and said to all the little wizards, "It seems that except for Mr. Potter, you all know the answer. There is no need to take notes." Chapter 33. Scabies Potion. Next we are going to learn how to make scabies potion. Llewellyn quickly flipped through the textbook and found the recipe for scabies potion. He looked up and looked at the classmates around him, and found that everyone was still concentrating on searching. Llewellyn followed the steps in the book. First, add 6 venomous snake teeth to the mortar and grind them into a very fine powder using a rod. Add the powdered snake tooth and dried nettle to the cauldron. At the same time, Rowling was also using the Eye of Elements to observe the changes in the potion in the crucible. Heat the mixture to 250 degrees Fahrenheit and continue to heat for an additional 10 seconds. There were also boiled horned slugs added to the cauldron. The most critical step at this moment is to move the crucible away from the flame. Next, add 2 porcupine quills into the crucible and stir clockwise for 5 turns. Suddenly, pink smoke came out of the crucible, and at the same time, the liquid in the crucible gradually turned blue, emitting a strange fragrance. Llewellyn successfully made the scabies potion, and he felt a sense of accomplishment. Snape saw the pink smoke, walked forward, sniffed it hard, and said lightly, "It's pretty standard." Suddenly, Rowling heard a series of screams. The sound came from Neville Longbottom, and with a bang sound, along with the green mist, the potion in the crucible splashed all over the nearby little wizards. Then the affected little wizards had dense red and swollen scabies on their bodies. Snape yelled, "How dare you add porcupine quills to a fire?" Looking at Neville Longbottom standing there stupidly with scabies all over his body, he said coldly, "Just be thankful that Mr. Rowling made the scabies potion, otherwise I wouldn't have any extra potions here." Rowling quickly picked up the scabies potion and ran towards Neville. "Quick, apply it on your body." He handed the potion to Neville, who quickly applied it. After the scabies came into contact with the scabies potion, wisps of black mist emerged from the place where it was applied, and Neville's skin no longer deteriorated. At this moment, Llewellyn opened the Eye of Elements to observe all this. In Rowling's eyes, which were like the deep starry sky, the world he saw had become completely different. The ordinary little wizards around him now presented a strange and amazing scene in his sight. They stood like transparent human sculptures, with their internal structures clearly visible, as if they were made up of countless tiny magical elements tightly interwoven. These magical elements swirled in their blood and bodies like flowing water. However, what was even more surprising was that when Neville Longbottom's failed potion was sprayed on the little wizards, it did not simply adhere to the surface like ordinary liquids, but quickly penetrated into their skin and turned into a group of emerald green potion energy. These green potion energies were like a powerful torrent, colliding and blending with the energy contained in the little wizard himself. They entangled and tore each other, and finally triggered a thrilling magical reaction, leading to the formation of scabies. The scabies potion prepared by Llewellyn himself. When this special potion is applied on the scabies, it will gradually take effect in a slow and firm way. But as time goes by, the power of the potion gradually prevails and successfully neutralizes and eliminates the scabies caused by the two energies. Witnessing all this happening, is this the true nature of the potion? The essence of magic potions is to extract or fuse the attribute energy of all magical plants or ordinary plants to produce a magical reaction. So can it be directly produced through the energy in nature? The energy in nature is also complex. The root of healing lies in recovery, and the premise of recovery is that there are no hidden dangers. Rowling took out his magic wand, and a little bit of white essence gathered at the top of the wand and covered Neville's left hand, which had not yet been coated with scabies potion. Snape did not stop him. He felt a sacred aura in this energy, and there was no evil of dark magic. At this moment, a jaw-dropping scene took place. The hideous and disgusting scabies on Neville Longbottom's left hand began to melt away at a speed visible to the naked eye. It was as if a pot of boiling water was suddenly poured into the snow, instantly melting the snow without a trace. At this moment, Neville Longbottom's left hand was also miraculously free of scabies, but this magical purification power was not possessed by everyone. Its essence is to completely eliminate all negative and evil things. Its greatest advantage is that it can cure the problem immediately, but it also has a fatal flaw, which is that it is difficult to spread widely. In contrast, although scabies lotion takes time to gradually eliminate scabies, it has the advantage of being able to be promoted and used on a large scale. Then, Rowling cast a spell without hesitation, heal as before. However, unexpectedly, this spell did not seem to have any effect. Faced with such a result, Snape snorted coldly and said coldly, "How foolish! The healing spell can only work on bodies that have not been damaged by magic." Hearing this, Rowling did not refute, because through his unique elemental eyes, he clearly saw the changes that occurred when the healing spell hit that part of Neville Longbottom. There, Neville Longbottom's own magical fluctuations became extremely active, just like the regenerative cells in a muggle's body that were constantly dividing and proliferating. "System, what exactly is the purifying power in my body? Is it magic?" The extremely powerful purifying force contained in the host's body is the purest and most fundamental source of purification in the entire world. Oh my God! Oh my God! Oh my God! System, it turns out that you are really a demon from outside the domain. No wonder this world wants to completely wipe you out. Could it be that the purpose of your coming here is it just to steal the original power of this world? If that's the case, can we talk it out and just say goodbye? Host, please do not worry. This system has already reformed and decided to start anew. Since the first day you came to this world, you made a vow to the world's will. Since then, you, this world and I have been closely connected and can no longer be separated. The power of purification in the host's body has now successfully concluded a contract with the source of purification in this world. If everything goes well, then you will have the opportunity to become the unique and supreme God of purification in this world. Okay, system, stop making big promises. So how can the system allow others to use the power of purification? Host, at this moment, you are the one and only God of purification in this world. However, it is a pity that you only control the insignificant power of purification, and it is also abnormally weak and powerless. Chapter 34. In the name of Luo Lin. Back then, this system had traveled through countless vast worlds. But, this world is a little special. There is no so-called God here at all, and even the will of heaven is extremely weak. It is precisely because of this that this system came here by chance and brought you, the unlucky guy, along. You know, there are gods in other worlds, and these gods are born from all the rules of the world and have self-awareness. It is precisely because the consciousness of the heavenly Dao in this world is too weak that it is simply unable to encourage the power of rules to give birth to gods. Therefore, this system has taken great pains to steal a tiny bit of the origin of purification and bestow it on you. What do you think? Are you so grateful that you want to kneel down and kowtow to express your gratitude? Ha 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 ha. After Luo Lin carefully sorted out the information in his mind, he asked thoughtfully, so what should we do to obtain more purification sources? How can I become a true god of purification? His eyes revealed a hint of eagerness and desire, as if he was looking forward to the answer. However, the system gave a somewhat surprising response. Host, to borrow a famous saying from this world, the wand chooses the wizard, and the wizard also chooses the wand. Only when you become truly powerful one day, perhaps the mysterious purification rules will take the initiative to extend an olive branch to you and choose you as its spokesperson. How about you go steal some more? Oh my! Master Host, please stop talking nonsense. To tell you the truth, if it weren't for the previous adventure that attracted the attention of the purification rules, I'm afraid we wouldn't even be able to get this little bit of the purification source now. The power of unconscious rules is very powerful. Like a huge wave hitting the shore. If you made a vow to the heavenly Dao on the first day of your arrival, and if the heavenly Dao is not aware of it, he will directly wipe you out. So, it is more reliable to honestly improve your strength. After saying this, the system seemed to shake its head gently, expressing a helpless attitude. Does it mean that except me, no one else can use this magical purifying power? Rolling asked with a puzzled look on his face. That's not the case. Although you have the power of purification, the rules of purification still exist in the world. However, it is not easy to master this power. In those worlds blessed by gods, all living beings in the mortal world will pray devoutly to the gods they believe in. As long as the gods agree, these believers will be blessed by the gods and granted with divine power. But for a world without the protection of gods and relying only on rules to operate, if you want to exchange for the power you need, you must pay an equal price. Hearing this, Luo Lin couldn't help but fall into deep thought. Since I already have a part of the origin of evolution in my body, does that mean I can also give others the power of purification? In theory, this goal can be achieved through a contract. However, the principle of fair trade must also be followed, that is, the value of the provider and the receiver must be equal. In your case, the purifying power in the host depends on the strength of its own magic. If the person who signs the contract is too powerful, and you as the host are unable to give the other party the corresponding purifying power, you are likely to suffer the backlash of the contract, and the consequences are disastrous. Are all spells a contract between the caster's internal power and the power of rules? You can understand it that way. Then can we directly contract to the purification rules themselves? After Luo Lin thought for a moment, a look of determination flashed in his eyes. "I want to try the contract purification rules." He concentrated his mind, chanted the spell silently, and felt the flow of magic around him. Suddenly, he felt a powerful force surging in his heart, as if he had established a connection with the purification rules of the entire world. Luo Lin took a deep breath and tried his best to convey his thoughts. "In the name of Luo Lin, I pray for the approval of the purification rules and am willing to sign a contract with them." Before he finished speaking, a dazzling light burst out from his body, illuminating the entire classroom. In the light, a mysterious rune could be vaguely seen, slowly merging into Rolling's brows. He succeeded. Luo Lin became the first person to directly contract with the purification rules. Luo Lin suddenly uttered an ancient spell power of purification. All wizards with pure and kind hearts will be allowed to use the power of purification. Snape stared at Rowling closely, his eyes following her changing expressions, and thought to himself, could it be that this little fellow is so vulnerable? Just because I scolded him with a word of stupidity, did he become dumbfounded? But at this moment, something unexpected happened. A dazzling light suddenly burst out from his body, like a blazing sun, instantly illuminating the entire classroom as bright as day. Those little wizards who were originally covered with scabies, the scabies on their bodies disappeared without a trace in the blink of an eye, as if they were cast under a magical spell. At the same time, every wizard present felt a warm and pure power flowing into the depths of their hearts, as if a sweet rain had moistened the long dry earth, giving their souls an unprecedented baptism and purification. Snape was shocked. He clearly felt that the mark on his arm that symbolized the Dark Lord was gradually fading until it disappeared completely. Not only that, even all the negative emotions that had arisen from practicing black magic in the past gradually dissipated like smoke, and were replaced by an unprecedented tranquility and peace. At this moment, when he looked at Harry Potter, the person who came to his mind was no longer the James Potter whom he hated so much, but Lily Evans whom he once loved deeply. And all the Slytherin students, the prejudices and evil thoughts that had always existed in their hearts, were completely cleansed away at this moment. Rowling stared at the strange phenomenon he was displaying, thinking secretly in his heart, how about showing off? Why not just declare that I am the legendary Merlin, but I don't know if they will believe it. Ha ha ha, Rowling thought secretly. Could this be the blessing bestowed by the mysterious power of rules? The moment I chanted the spell, I seemed to truly feel the joy expressed by the power of rules. At this moment, Neville Longbottom broke the silence without warning. He shouted excitedly, "Thank you, Rowling." This sentence was like a thunderbolt across the sky, bringing all the little wizards present back to their senses as if awakened from a dream. From that moment on, the only things that emerged from the depths of their hearts were those pleasant and beautiful scenes, without any other distractions or disturbances. Snape also came back to his senses. 10 points deducted from Gryffindor, get out of class dismissed. Mr. Potter and Mr. Longbottom stay to clean the potions classroom. He glanced at Rowling and said something. He turned and left. He was going to find Dumbledore to report the dark mark on his arm. After class, Luo Lin returned to the dormitory. There were only 2 classes in the morning. The next one would be in the afternoon. Rowling lay on the bed, thinking back to what he had learned in the morning. Professor McGonagall's transfiguration class could only teach him how to change the shape of the same substance. For example, a wooden toothpick can only be transformed into a wooden needle. This is just a simple transfiguration spell and does not involve the transformation of matter or even the soul. But Professor McGonagall turned the podium into a flesh and blood animal today. She is indeed a master of the transfiguration spell. Chapter 35, Scientific Cultivation, Infinite Power. Rowling has always believed that scientific cultivation of immortality can bring boundless power. Let us explain this with the science that Muggles are keen on studying. Whether it is a living organism full of vitality or a seemingly lifeless non-living organism, they are all made up of various substances. These substances are composed of countless tiny molecules. If we dig deeper, we will find that each molecule is actually composed of even smaller atoms. The mysterious atom is a wonderful structure composed of the nucleus at the core and the protons and neutrons surrounding it. The key point is that it is the different numbers of protons that ultimately determine the various types of elements. To put it another way, there is actually no essential difference between humans and other animals. Similarly, there is no huge difference between plants and humans. Because of this, the transfiguration, which the respected Professor McGonagall excels in, is based on such a profound theoretical foundation. Through the use of magical powers, the elements inside the object are rearranged and integrated to create a completely new biological form. Such a large-scale use of magic and the ability to control it to the extreme are truly amazing. No wonder, even if Dumbledore stepped down in the future, no one dared to mess with the only vice-headmaster of Hogwarts. I think the reason why many wizards use the transfiguration spell in a crude way is probably because it is difficult for them to control their own vast and surging magic power as exquisitely as Professor McGonagall. It seems that it is not easy to master high-end transformation spells. It requires powerful magic power and extremely precise control over magic power. Then, for the animagus, which is considered the pinnacle of transfiguration spells, the animal form it presents probably depends on the amount of magic power it contains. In other words, the more magic power in the body, the larger the animal form that the animagus can show. Thinking of this, Llewellyn raised the wand in his hand without hesitation and pointed it at a wooden chair beside him. Then, he began to continuously transfer his magic power to the wand. An astonishing thing happened. The ordinary wooden chair actually underwent a miraculous transformation from the inside out, and eventually turned into an extremely hard iron chair. This was simply a magical transformation on the material level. However, at this moment, beads of sweat had already appeared on Llewellyn's forehead. Obviously, he was almost reaching his limit at this moment. So, he decisively stopped inputting magic power, and the iron chair that had just completed a gorgeous transformation instantly returned to its original appearance. Zyok, who witnessed the whole process, couldn't help but exclaim in amazement. After Rowling successfully cast the transformation spell, his stomach suddenly made a rumbling sound, as if protesting against his master's long-term neglect. "Oh, I'm so hungry, Zyok. Let's go find something to eat to fill our stomachs." As he said that, Llewellyn took Zyok's hand and walked towards the restaurant together. "Great, I'm going to eat milk pudding." When Rowling arrived at the Great Hall, there were already many young wizards gathered here. Rowling returned to his seat at the Gryffindor table and asked the house elf to tell him what food to eat. While Rowling was having dinner, Harry Ron also came to the auditorium. "Hey, Rowling." "Hello Harry. After finishing the meal, it's time for self-study." Suddenly a flock of owls flew in from outside, bringing a lot of mail and gifts. Harry Potter held a newspaper in his hand and shouted in surprise, "Rowling, Ron, look, the safe at number 713 in Gringotts has been robbed." "But the other party must have come away empty-handed," Harry said confidently. "It seems that Professor Quirrell has taken action," Rowling thought to himself. "Why do you say that?" Ron asked. "Because the things in Vault 713 were taken away by Hagrid before school started." In the flying class, the young wizards from Gryffindor and Slytherin stood on both sides. At their feet, there is a flying broom. Below, the little wizards stretched out their hands and shouted, "Get up," to the brooms at their feet. The young wizards tried one after another. Harry Potter succeeded first, followed by Draco Malfoy. Llewellyn looked at the broom in his hand and was not impressed. He was a man with wings. Who would be willing to sit on a thin wooden stick? Wouldn't it be uncomfortable? This was too unfriendly to his little brother. Suddenly, the flying broom in Willen Button's hand took him up to the sky. Then he crashed into the city wall and hung on the spear in the statue's hand. With a crack, his clothes tore and he fell off the spear. After 2 buffers, he only broke his arm. Llewellyn knew this would happen, but it happened so suddenly that he was unable to react. Mrs. Hodge helped N.A. Way to the infirmary. After Madame Hodge left, Malfoy picked up the memory ball that Nai dropped on the ground and prepared to hide it, deliberately trying to urge Nai. Harry stepped forward and said, "Malfoy, you shouldn't do this. Mr. Scarhead, you like to show off so much. So do you think I should hide it on the rooftop of the castle, or somewhere else?" Malfoy said to Harry Potter with a joking look on his face, then he dodged and flew into the air on his broomstick. Harry refused to show weakness, and he staggered after it, shouting, "Give it back to me." Rowling watched the opening of this fateful battle from the sidelines and found it extremely interesting. Harry finally flew in front of Malfoy and stretched out his hand to ask for the balloon, but he didn't expect Malfoy to throw the balloon away. Harry quickly got up and chased after him. Just as he was about to knock down the castle wall, he caught the memory ball with a beautiful reversal. Even Rowling, who was watching from below, couldn't help but exclaimed, "What a natural pursuer!" At this moment, Professor Mike was correcting homework and was suddenly surprised by the scene outside the window. Harry Potter caught the memory ball and held it high above his head. All the little wizards went crazy, it was so awesome. Harry Potter landed successfully and all the little wizards gathered around to congratulate him. Suddenly, Professor McGonagall came over aggressively. "Harry Potter, follow me," Professor Mike said seriously. "It's over, what about Rowling? Will Harry be expelled?" Ron said anxiously. "Maybe," Llewellyn said confidently. Looking at the interesting scene, Llewellyn couldn't help but feel evil. It's over, I'm in trouble. I won't let you get fired, will I? If that's the case, then should I go to Hagrid and help him carry his bags?" Harry Potter thought inwardly while struggling. Just as Harry Potter was daydreaming, Professor McGonagall took him to the door of the Defense Against the Dark Arts class and asked him to wait. Soon Professor McGonagall brought out a handsome boy and said excitedly, "He is the captain of the Gryffindor Quidditch team. I have brought you an excellent seeker. We need a better broomstick. A Nimbus 2000 or a crossbow would be awesome." Chapter 36. Rain Spirit. "This is Rowling." Malfoy walked up to Rowling with a proud smile on his face. "Look, Rowling, this time Harry Potter is definitely going to be kicked out of school." Looking at Professor McGonagall's serious expression, "I bet Harry Potter is going through the expulsion process right now." As he spoke, he pointed in the direction of the castle. Rowling stared at Draco intently, secretly laughing in his heart. For him, who has the soul of a 20-something adult in his body, it was really interesting to witness these 11-year-old little wizards fighting each other openly and secretly. He couldn't help but look forward to how Draco would react when he learned that Harry Potter became a seeker. Would he be furious and angry? Thinking of this, Rowling couldn't help laughing. "I have to say, Headmaster Dumbledore is really good at choosing opponents for Harry Potter. This Draco is always self-righteous and arrogant, but he always loses. They are simply a pair of happy enemies. Ha 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 ha. Oh, Draco, what if Harry Potter joined the Quidditch team?" Rowling suddenly asked, with a cunning gleam in his eyes, and seemed to be very interested in the question he asked. "Absolutely impossible. How could a first-year wizard who has just entered school be able to join the Quidditch team?" Draco retorted firmly with his eyes wide open. However, when he saw the meaningful and silent smile on Rowling's face, for some reason, his originally high-pitched voice unconsciously lowered a few notes. "If that's the case, I have other ways to deal with Harry Potter." "As you wish, Draco, ha ha ha." It was a clear sky, but suddenly it started to rain. Xiao Ke flew out of Rowling's pocket. "There is a scent of Clow cards." Llewellyn opened the Eye of Elements and looked up at the sky, and sure enough, there was a strong fluctuation of magical power. All the little wizards ran back to the castle. When Draco noticed that Rowling did not return to the castle, he looked outside and found that there was no one there. At this time, Llewellyn rode his flying broom to the sky. Sure enough, he saw a dark cloud under the feet of an elf, and it was raining continuously. "The key that hides the power of darkness, show me your true power." "The seal is lifted." Llewellyn shouted a spell, a dazzling light flashed, and a magic wand appeared in his hand. Seeing this, the elf immediately controlled the dark clouds to fly towards Llewellyn. Llewellyn nimbly dodged the attack and waved the magic wand at the same time, emitting magical light. As the two sides fought fiercely, the weather around them became worse and worse, with the wind whistling and the rain getting heavier. But Llewellyn did not back down, he held the wand tightly and concentrated on fighting back. "Wind elves, please listen to my call, show up quickly and display your magical and powerful power. Use your invisible chains to tightly bind the target." However, despite the wind elves trying their best, the strong winds they brought were like illusions, easily penetrating the dense rain curtain, and were unable to produce any substantial restraining effect on it. "Wind spirits, please unleash your most powerful tornado power. Let this violent force gather into an unparalleled hurricane and gather all the raindrops flying in the sky." As Llewellyn shouted more and more passionately, the energy in the wind card continued to gush out, becoming more and more turbulent. Gradually, these energies began to blend and condense in the air, and finally formed an extremely large tornado. This huge creature was like a ferocious beast, pouncing towards the rain with its fangs and claws bared. In an instant, the rain that was originally floating everywhere seemed to be pulled by some mysterious force and rushed towards the center of the tornado. As if controlled by an invisible big hand, they quickly gathered together and formed an extremely huge ball of water. Seeing victory in sight, Xiao Ke couldn't help but shout out excitedly, "Great, now is the time! The perfect opportunity has arrived!" Then, Luo Lin muttered something, raised the sealing staff, and a magic circle shining with strange light suddenly appeared in the air. With a strong wave of magic power, this magic circle was like a bottomless pit, emitting a heart-pounding attraction. In the blink of an eye, the huge ball of water was sucked in and disappeared without a trace. Along with it, the rain cloud card returned to its original appearance and quietly floated in the air. Rolling spread his wings and flew directly from outside the castle to Gryffindor Tower and into his dormitory. What Rolling didn't know was that with such a huge fluctuation of magic power in Hogwarts Castle, how could it be hidden from the headmaster of Hogwarts at this time? And Dumbledore was watching all this with interest through the window. There was also a honey candy in his mouth. "Severus, is this the little wizard you mentioned?" Rolling. Dumbledore's voice contained a hint of curiosity and surprise that was difficult to conceal. Severus Snape, who was standing beside him, nodded slightly to show his affirmation. His deep and magnetic voice slowly sounded. "If nothing special happens, then this child in front of us is the one we are talking about. And from what I have observed, he is still a first-year student who has just entered the magical world, but he has already shown extraordinary potential and talent. Especially the extremely pure and powerful energy fluctuations contained in his body, which is really amazing." As he spoke, Dumbledore's eyes moved to the flying squirrel beside Rolling, and he showed great interest, and then said, "Well, it looks quite interesting. I can clearly feel the huge magical energy emanating from this little guy's body. This level of power reserve is probably extremely rare even in the entire magic world." After a brief pause, he turned his gaze back to Rolling and continued thoughtfully, "Based on the current situation, it seems unlikely that this child will embark on the path of a dark wizard. After all, to possess such a powerful purification power, one's heart must be as clear and flawless as crystal. Even the mark on your arm that Tom personally put on it can be easily purified, which shows how pure his heart is. You know, that is a symbol deeply engraved in the depths of your soul that can never be erased." Hearing this, a hint of surprise appeared on Snape's usually stern face, and he echoed softly, "Indeed, it is really beyond my expectations. What's the relationship between this little Rolling and Harry? I have no way of knowing, but Mr. Potter seems to have a good relationship with that Weasley. Is this also your arrangement, Dumbledore? You know, Severus, that Lily and Mrs. Weasley always had a very good relationship when they were in the Order of the Phoenix." Luo Lin returned to the dormitory through the window and immediately changed his clothes. Chapter 37. The Mysterious Wizard. Bang! 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 Rolling, Rolling! "Harry Potter, why is he knocking on my door?" Rolling waved his wand and the dormitory door opened. "Are you okay? Did Professor Harry McGonagall give you any trouble?" Rolling asked with concern. "Of course not, Harry is now the seeker of the Gryffindor Quidditch team." Ron answered quickly. "Congratulations, Harry, the youngest seeker ever. I hope you have achieved very well. So what do you want to see me in the dormitory?" "Thank you for your blessing, Rolling. Just now, we actually ran into that annoying Malfoy. He even had the audacity to ask me to go to the trophy display room with him tonight and have a fierce wizard duel with me. You must help me, Rolling." Harry's face was full of earnestness, and his big green eyes were blinking, as if crystal tears would fall at any time. He looked at Rolling pitifully. "Oh? Then how do you want me to help you, Harry?" Rolling frowned slightly and thought to himself. "Well, can you be my deputy, Rolling? I will definitely be more confident with you by my side." Harry held Rolling's clothes tightly, his tone full of anticipation. After hearing this, Rolling couldn't help but fall into deep thought. This is just a little fight between children. Maybe even Dumbledore would acquiesce in letting him play the role of nanny of Harry Potter, the savior, and participate in the so-called training program. So he sighed softly and said slowly, "I'm very sorry, Harry. I'm afraid I can't do as you wish this time, because you and Draco are both my friends, and I really can't favor either side to help you defeat him." After saying this, Rolling shook his head helplessly, with an indescribable complex emotion in his eyes. "But, Rolling..." Harry wanted to beg a few more words. "Okay, Harry," Ron said at this time, "don't make it difficult for Rolling. He is right. He can't take sides. Besides, you are the man who will be the greatest seeker in the future. How can you be afraid of dueling with Malfoy? Ron is right, Harry. Rowling patted Harry on the shoulder, you have to believe in your own strength. Besides, the duel is fair. Harry listened and nodded. Although he was still a little unsure, he had to agree. Good luck to you, Harry, said Rowling, smiling. The next morning, Rowling climbed out of the window and jumped down from the Gryffindor Tower as usual. After arriving at the Black Lake and sealing the rain card, my affinity for the water element seemed to have increased. Taking a step forward, he walked directly on the water. Llewellyn walked towards the center of the Black Lake, where the water element seemed to be more concentrated. Xiao Ke said proudly, as expected, I found the magician Kuro. When Llewellyn slowly stepped into the center of the mysterious and deep Black Lake, he closed his eyes and quietly felt the rich water elemental power that permeated around him. After a moment, he took a deep breath, raised his hands gently, and began to practice Tai Chi slowly like flowing water. As his body swayed slightly, an invisible breath surged out of his body. This breath was like a nimble dragon, blending and responding with the surrounding water elements. Gradually, tiny ripples began to appear on the lake surface, and these ripples seemed to be gently moved by an invisible hand, spreading out in circles. As time went by, the magic power in Llewellyn's body became more and more turbulent, surging out like a tide. Correspondingly, the fluctuations on the lake surface became more and more violent. The lake, which was originally as calm as a mirror, was now like a disturbed beast, stirring up waves. However, despite this, Llewellyn did not stop his actions, but became more focused on it. Every punch and kick seemed to carry 100 pounds of force, every turn and step seemed to affect the rhythm of the entire lake. At this time, Llewellyn was completely immersed in the control of the water element. He forgot everything, and only the endless power and the pursuit of the way of nature were in his heart. However, as his control over the water element increased, pressure also came. He could clearly feel that the powerful water force that he was pulling was gradually gathering on him, as if a heavy mountain was pressing down on him and making him unable to breathe. But even so, Llewellyn still gritted his teeth and held on, refusing to give up easily. Suddenly, Llewellyn felt a strong force pulling him. He tried to resist, but the force was getting stronger and stronger. Just when he was about to give up, a voice in his heart seemed to say, "Relax, let it flow naturally." Llewellyn listened to his heart, loosened his tense nerves, and let the force lead his body. He began to float with the water, as if he had become a part of the water. At this time, he found that he could feel the pulse of water elements more clearly, their joys and sorrows, and the infinite energy they contained. In this wonderful experience, Llewellyn realized the true meaning of water elements' flexibility and compliance. He understood that only by being as soft and flexible as water could he truly master the power of the water element. As his state of mind changed, the water waves around him gradually calmed down, forming a huge water ball that wrapped him up. Llewellyn opened his eyes and looked at the scene in front of him, his heart filled with joy and a sense of accomplishment. At this moment, Llewellyn raised the sealing staff and smashed it towards the water. Claw card, restore your original appearance. Everything happened in a flash. Not only was the Claw card stunned, but even Xiao Ke was stunned. A sealing array appeared under Llewellyn's feet, and powerful magic waves surged on the sealing staff. Then it turned into a card shape and continued to absorb the power in the water. The water reservoir card, one of the 4 elements. It turns out you are the one causing trouble. Llewellyn felt a strong pressure just now. Although he was communicating with the water element here, it was not so overbearing. It seemed as if it was going to tear him apart. After Llewellyn relaxed his mind, he felt something unusual under the water. But that voice seemed to be his own voice, but there seemed to be something strange about it. The Claw cards are so cunning that they actually used the water element of this huge black lake and concealed their own aura so that I didn't even notice it, Xiao Ke said fearfully. Let's go. Xiao Ke has finished his exercise. Now it's time for a happy breakfast. Just as Rowling turned around and prepared to leave the mysterious and dark black lake, suddenly, a strange atmosphere spread. It was as if a pair of sharp eyes penetrated the barrier of time and space and locked onto him tightly. This gaze was like the cold moon in the cold night, cold and deep. At the other end of the black lake, a figure stood quietly. Under his feet, a mysterious hexagram array flickered, as if the brightest stars in the universe gathered here. In his hand, he held a sun staff that emitted a blazing glow. Ancient and complex runes were carved on the staff, and each line contained endless power and wisdom. He was wearing a black cloak that fluttered in the wind, as if invisible magic flowed through it. On his head he wears a peculiarly shaped and eye-catching wizard hat, with a shadow cast under the brim, making his face vague, adding a bit of mystery. Luo Lin's heart tightened, and an inexplicable sense of alertness surged in his heart. He keenly felt that there seemed to be some kind of existence staring at him silently, but when he suddenly turned around to find out the truth, he found that there was nothing behind him, only a quiet and silent black lake. "What's wrong?" Luo Linear. Xiao Ke on the side asked with a suspicious look on his face. Luo Lin frowned, his eyes revealing a hint of confusion and uneasiness. "I don't know why, I always feel like I'm being watched." Xiao Ke blinked his big eyes, trying to find anything unusual around him, but found nothing. He shook his head gently and said comfortingly, "Maybe you are too tired or hungry. How about we order a delicious chocolate cake later?" As he spoke, Xiao Ke's eyes flashed with anticipation, as if he could already taste the rich and sweet taste. Chapter 38. Pride and Prejudice. Rolling, rolling. Wait for us. Rolling, who was having breakfast and heading to the spells classroom, suddenly heard Harry Potter's voice coming from behind. Rolling turned around and said, "Good morning, Harry Ron." "Good morning, Rolling. How was it? Did you defeat Draco yesterday?" Rolling asked with a smile. "The cunning Malfoy deceived us. He actually asked us to go to the trophy room at night and then secretly told the administrator Filch. We almost got fired." Ron said angrily. "But we discovered a big secret." "What secret?" Luo Lin asked in confusion. "We accidentally sneaked into the room on the third floor yesterday. There was a huge three-headed dog inside that seemed to be guarding something. Luckily we ran fast, otherwise we would have been eaten by the three-headed dog." Harry described with fear. "You are so lucky, Harry. It's getting late, let's go to the spells classroom. Otherwise we will be late." "Okay." Spells classroom. "Good morning, little wizards. I am your Professor of Charms. You can call me Professor Flitwick. I have half goblin blood in my body, so in order to make it easier for the little wizards to see the rhythm of the wand in my hand, if you don't mind, I think I will stand on these books to teach you." Rolling looked at the petite Professor Flitwick with an inquiring look in his eyes. Rolling never dared to underestimate any professor, especially this short Professor Flitwick. He has won countless duel championships in the wizarding world. Regardless of what Rolling discovered in his research, the goblin blood contains unparalleled magical reserves. Like all house elves, the creatures of the magic world are kind, with only weak magic in their powerful bodies, such as trolls and giants. Short elves have strong magic in their weak bodies, such as house elves and goblins. The centaurs are not good at magic, but are especially good at divination and healing. In the Rolling study, can the souls of different races merge and possess powerful magic? Luo Lin learned that the soul is made up of pure soul power. If two souls are forced into the same organism, they will become schizophrenic, unless the two residual souls are fused into one complete soul. Although it can only form one soul, this body has two soul inheritances, and the dominant party is a soul body with a different personality. But the soul power will not increase. Rolling then focused his research on the body. That is, cross-species research like Professor Flitwick and Hagrid. Rollins's guess is: Hypothesis 1, does the next generation born from two different races have genes from both races? Hypothesis 2, the next generation born, the talent inheritance is random or maternal inheritance. After careful observation and relying on his memory from the Harry Potter movies, Rowling finally discovered that Professor Flitwick's ancestor was a hybrid of a goblin and a wizard. This means that whenever the goblin blood in his body becomes stronger, he will naturally show a short goblin figure and unique wizard facial features. But the magic power in his body is also huge, but his body is weak. On the other hand, the situation about Hagrid is equally amazing. It is reported that Hagrid's biological father is an orthodox wizard, but his biological mother is a real member of the giant family. Because of this, Hagrid not only inherited a majestic body like a giant, although slightly shorter than ordinary giants, but also gained extraordinary and powerful magic that far surpassed other giants. It has to be said that the fusion of these two extremely powerful bloodlines is really exciting. They may really be able to give birth to a new generation that is more extraordinary and powerful, but at the same time, who dares to assert that a relatively weak bloodline will not be born? Professor Flitwick waved his wand, and the piles of feathers on the podium were evenly scattered in front of each little wizard. Now I will teach the little wizards the levitation spell. Everyone chant the spell Wingardium Leviosa with me. Okay, now it's free practice time. Ron, who was sitting in front of Rolling, kept waving his wand, but the feather didn't react at all. It's probably not my wand, and the wand itself doesn't respond to Ron. Unless the user has powerful magic power, Rolling thought to himself. Hermione Granger next to him turned to Ron and patiently and carefully explained to him that it was Wingardium Leviosa, not Wingardium Leviosa. Llewellyn stared ahead with a bit of curiosity and doubt. He thought to himself, could it be that this little girl has changed her character? The Hermione Granger who came into view at this moment no longer had the arrogant attitude of the past that made her difficult to approach, but became more humble. Recalling what happened on the train not long ago, Hermione Granger did cry bitterly. However, that only made her restrained slightly. After all, the academic mastery that was deeply imprinted in her bones still made her unconsciously feel superior to others. But in just a few days at Hogwarts, she noticed that her roommates began to deliberately distance themselves from her. This sudden change made Hermione feel confused and lost. And when she was in the potions class, the magical purifying light in Rowling's body was like an epiphany, suddenly awakening the long-dormant memories deep in her heart. The memories of the past on campus came to mind, and those good times full of laughter and joy emerged one by one. However, every time she recalled that she always used a high-handed and domineering teaching tone to communicate with her classmates, the result was often that everyone kept a distance from her. It was at this moment that Hermione seemed to suddenly realize something, and finally resolutely abandoned her self-righteous and arrogant attitude that had lasted for a long time. Rowling couldn't help but marvel at this. It was probably the lesson he learned on the train that made her change her ways. She was able to take on and let go of things so easily, no wonder she would become the Minister of Magic in the future. Ron didn't feel it was strange at the moment. If it weren't for Hermione Granger's help last night, he and Harry might have been eaten by the three-headed dog. Hermione Granger, while learning from Ron, waved her wand. Her feathers successfully floated up. 5 points to Gryffindor for precise control of magic. Professor Flitwick said excitedly. Llewellyn saw someone successfully cast a spell. He also waved his wand and made the feather float successfully. At this moment, there was a loud bang, and it turned out that Seamus Finnegan's feathers exploded. Rowling couldn't help but be surprised. Throughout the entire timeline, Seamus was either blowing up this or that. With such violent magical power in his body, he himself was not hurt at all. He shouldn't play with a wand, he should play with a cannon. Rowling couldn't help but giggle. Hey, Rowling, what are you grinning about? Draco asked beside him. Nothing, I'm just amazed to see that Hermione Granger has such magical talent. At this moment, the follower next to Malfoy suddenly shouted loudly, she's just a mudblood. This sudden shout seemed to break through the entire classroom. Not only did Hermione, who was standing nearby, hear these words clearly, even Professor Flitwick, who was standing on the podium and instructing his students, was alarmed. However, surprisingly, Professor Flitwick only cast his sharp eyes towards this side, but did not say even a word. There is no doubt that Professor Flitwick is an extremely amiable person. Looking back to the past, when he was a young boy and had just entered the Hogwarts campus, countless classmates had already cast strange looks at him because of his slightly short stature. In addition, he has the blood of the goblins in his body. In the minds of most wizards, people like them seem to be born as lower-class citizens. Faced with such judgments and treatments, Professor Flitwick never got angry. He never got angry because he thought that they had no ill intentions, they were just ignorant. They just wanted the people around them to be simpler, so that it would be easier to understand. Rather than simply admitting that humans are complex facts, it is easier to understand and accept them, rather than rashly agreeing that humans actually have many complex realities. In the end, it was his extraordinary intelligence and wisdom that won the favor of the Sorting Hat, and he was naturally assigned to Ravenclaw House, which is known for its wisdom. So here, Professor Flitwick did not make too many accusations, he just thought that the little wizards were too ignorant, but he had no ill intentions. Draco glared at him fiercely, as if blaming him for being too talkative. However, the lackey did not understand what he meant and continued, "A mudblood can actually learn the levitation spell, what a joke." This time, Professor Flitwick could no longer remain silent. He walked quickly to the follower and said seriously, "Student, I do not allow you to say such things in my class. Everyone should be treated equally, regardless of their origin or race. Miss Granger has done a good job, and she deserves our respect and encouragement." After saying that, Professor Flitwick looked at Rowling, with a hint of admiration in his eyes, "And you, Mr. Rowling, you have also mastered the levitation spell, very good. Now, please continue practicing." The classroom returned to silence. At this time, Hermione Granger didn't care at all, because she didn't seem to understand what the mudblood meant. When she asked Ron, he was also hesitant. And Harry Potter didn't know even more. So Hermione Granger continued to practice the levitation spell in her hand. Rowling also heard Hermione Granger's conversation. But he didn't tell her the reason. Because Rowling knew that prejudice would not defeat Hermione Granger, but would make her grow. Chapter 39. Troll. Halloween Dinner. Llewellyn stepped into the solemn and mysterious auditorium, and his eyes were attracted by the pumpkin lanterns floating in the air like elves. They emitted a faint but warm light, as if welcoming his arrival. With full of curiosity and anticipation, Llewellyn walked briskly towards his seat. As soon as he sat down, a miracle happened. Countless delicious desserts suddenly appeared on the empty long table. These exquisite and tempting pastries, candies, and chocolates were arranged in a dazzling array, forming a mouth-watering ocean of food. Zyok on the side was so excited that his eyes lit up. He jumped without hesitation and threw himself into this sweet world. However, the little wizards around were not surprised or abrupt at this scene. After all, in this magical world full of fantasy, there are many incredible magical creatures and elves. The cute winged squirrel in front of him was just one of many wonderful creatures. Some little wizards even took the initiative to hand over the cake in their hands to Xiao Kai to show their friendliness and welcome. Faced with such hospitable partners, Zyok was naturally not polite and accepted everyone, happily enjoying the kindness and care coming from all sides. Soon, more little wizards were infected and joined in the joyful atmosphere of sharing food. For a moment, the whole auditorium was filled with laughter and a strong sweet smell. "Rowling, have you seen Hermione? Ron and I haven't seen her all afternoon." Rowling immediately became alert. It seemed that Voldemort was going to do something. It was time for the troll to appear. But he still replied, "No, Harry, I have been in the dormitory the whole time. I heard from Hermione's roommate that he has been staying in the girls' bathroom and refused to come out. He may have been crying in there all afternoon." Hermione went back and asked her roommate what a mudblood is. After she found out, she immediately ran into the bathroom and refused to come out. Neville Longbottom said beside him. Suddenly, the door of the auditorium was opened from the outside, and Professor Quirrell hurried in and shouted, "Troll! In the dungeon, there is a troll in the dungeon. I thought I should come and tell you." Then Quirrell fainted on the ground. Rowling looked at Professor Quirrell, what a lifelike acting. He muttered to himself, "Professor Quirrell should be awarded a Hogwarts Oscar, hee. After being immersed in it for a few seconds, suddenly, the auditorium exploded, all the little wizards started screaming, and Rowling's ears became deaf instantly. "Oh my god! Oh my god! I was careless and didn't dodge." Silence. Please don't panic, everyone. The prefects are counting the number of people now. Please don't run around. The professors are guarding here, nothing will go wrong, Dumbledore said silently while casting a sound-enhancing spell. "Professor McGonagall and Professor Snape, please follow me to the dungeon. Professor Flitwick and the other professors will stay behind to protect the safety of the young wizards. Ron, Hermione is still in the changing room, let's go and inform her," Harry said anxiously. Rowling watched Harry Potter and Ron sneak out of the hall, and followed them but just followed closely without going forward. If nothing unexpected happens, the troll will be solved by Harry and Ron. But if anything unexpected happens, I can still help them secretly. This way it won't attract Dumbledore's attention. Harry Potter and Ron were talking as they ran towards the changing room. How did the troll get in? The troll is too stupid to come in on its own. Someone must have let it in. They want to use the troll to attract the professor's attention so they can steal what the three-headed dog is protecting. Rowling was listening to their conversation from behind and thought that it seemed that Harry still didn't notice that he was guarding the Philosopher's Stone. Bang! 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 A series of huge footsteps came from the corner ahead, and a shadow was imprinted in front of Ron. It was also the first time for Rowling to see a troll. "I think the troll has run out of the dungeon," Ron said palely. The troll walked towards the women's bathroom step by step. Rowling couldn't help but wonder, "Dumbledore, is this also in your control? There is a certain distance from the underground classroom to the bathroom, and it is not so convenient. Or is it that Voldemort deliberately led the troll to go here? Indeed, if a little wizard died, Quirrell would have a better chance of stealing the Philosopher's Stone." At this moment, Hermione, who was hiding in the bathroom, had a rumbling stomach. Seeing that it was getting dark, she was about to go back to the dormitory when she heard a thumping sound and a foul smell. Hermione looked outside and saw a huge monster walking towards the bathroom. She had been discovered by the troll, so Hermione immediately hid in the wooden compartment. With a bang, the troll smashed a row of compartments in half with a big wooden stick in his hand. Hermione screamed. "Hermione, run!" Harry and Ron also rushed to the door. "Help! Help! Help!" Rowling was outside watching Harry Potter and Ron throwing broken wooden boards at the troll, trying to attract the troll's attention. As he wished, the troll was attracted by Harry. But he still smashed the bathroom hard. Harry suddenly grabbed the huge stick in the troll's hand and sat on the troll's head, and inserted the wand into its nose. Awesome! The melee wizard Harry Potter is born. "Now it's time for Ron to use the levitation spell to end the battle," Rowling exclaimed. As a result, the troll became even more angry and picked up Harry Potter in his hands. "Do something quickly!" he shouted to Ron and Hermione for help. "What a reckless man! Shadow obeyed my call and went to restrain the giant monster." The seal of the Clow card was lifted. As Llewellyn cursed, a dark shadow attacked the feet of the giant monster in the bathroom. Suddenly, the giant monster stopped and did not move. Ron took out his wand and finally cast the floating spell. The stick floated above the troll's head and smashed down with a bang. But at this moment, Llewellyn used the Eye of Elements to clearly see a spell flying from the shadow next to him. When the wooden stick hit the troll's head, the spell also hit the troll's head. Rowling was shocked when he saw it. Sure enough, Dumbledore is nearby. But I don't see Professor Snape and Professor McGonagall. He and Professor McGonagall should go to the three-headed dog. Dumbledore also saw Rowling winking at him with his left eye. Not bad magic, I should give it to Gryffindor. Before Dumbledore could finish, Rowling interrupted him. "Good evening, Dumbledore. The sun is so bright tonight. If there is no problem here, I will go back first." Then Rowling planned to slip away. Dumbledore was not angry at being interrupted, but said in a low voice, "Ha ha ha, Mr. Rowling, hi? If you don't mind, can you come to my office to chat? It seems that there is no candy here." "Thank you, Headmaster Dumbledore. I haven't collected the clothes that were hung out to dry in my dormitory yet. It feels like it's going to rain." Rowling said and ran away. "I was so scared that I didn't feel anything at all." "Zyok, did you feel someone approaching?" "No, his magic is very strong." "Mr. Rowling," Dumbledore muttered, "am I that scary?" while watching him run away. Then his attention fell on Harry Potter again. McGonagall and Severus also rushed over. Professor McGonagall angrily said to Harry, "You'd better explain what's going on." Hermione replied, "It's all my fault, Professor. I thought I could defeat the troll by myself. I saw a way to deal with him in a book. It's all my fault. If Harry and Ron hadn't come to me, I might have died. Even so, it's a really stupid thing to do." Harry Potter also noticed the torn robe and the blood on Snape's legs. "I thought you were smarter than others, but you disappointed me greatly. Miss Granger. Gryffindor will be deducted 5 points. As for the two of you actually defeating the troll as first-year students, well, add 5 points, 5 points each." The three Gryffindor giants established an indelible friendship at this moment. The next morning, in the restaurant, Rowling was eating breakfast, and Ron's voice came from the side. "Eat more, Harry, you'll be in for a real show later." Rowling saw Snape walking towards Harry Potter. Chapter 40. Patroness curse. May good luck come to you, Mr. Potter. Professor Snape's gloomy face was expressionless, as if covered by a layer of frost. He walked slowly behind Harry, his steps seemed a little heavy and unnatural. I hope you have made sufficient preparations for today's flight. After all, you are a person who can successfully deal with a monster as huge as a troll. How can a mere Quidditch game be difficult for you? Even if the opponent is Slytherin. Professor Snape said in his low and slightly sarcastic tone, and before he finished speaking, he dragged his slightly limping leg and staggered away. Looking at Professor Snape's receding back and his limping leg, Harry Potter suddenly spoke in a serious tone, "You know what? I saw a lot of blood flowing from his leg yesterday. There is no doubt that he deliberately released the ferocious giant monster. His purpose was to delay the professors so that he could sneak into the secret room and steal the treasures. Unfortunately, his wish did not come true, and he was eventually bitten by the three-headed vicious dog guarding the secret room." Hearing this, Rowling couldn't help laughing secretly, but he didn't expose Harry Potter's nonsense, because only he knew that Professor Snape had been paying attention to Harry silently, but his unique way of expression often led to misunderstanding. "Really? Harry?" Hermione asked in surprise, her eyes wide. "I swear it's absolutely true. I'll bet it on the 2000 Nimbus that Professor McGonagall gave me," Harry said solemnly. But how is this possible? Why would Professor Snape do this?" Ron scratched his head in confusion. "I don't know, but we have to find out the truth." Harry clenched his fists, his eyes determined. "But what should we do? Asking him directly won't work," Hermione said worriedly. "We can secretly observe his actions and maybe find some clues," Ron suggested. "Good idea. I think Professor Quirrell is very close to us. We can secretly tell Professor Quirrell." Harry nodded in agreement. The three decided to set up a secret investigation team, determined to uncover the secret behind Professor Snape. Rowling was listening nearby and almost laughed out loud. Was Voldemort's undercover agent born? It seems that Harry's Nimbus 2000 was destroyed by the Whomping Willow later. It seems that vows cannot be made carelessly, otherwise they will really come true. "Rowling, do you want to join us?" Harry turned around and said to Rowling sincerely. I don't think Professor Snape is that bad. I'd better give up," Rowling said awkwardly. "Okay," Harry replied in a disappointed tone. "Then Rowling, will you come to watch my Quidditch game?" Rowling looked at Harry's big blue eyes and wanted to refuse but couldn't say it. He was not interested in Quidditch. Although Rowling was passionate, he was not interested. "Okay, Harry. For the sake of our friendship, I will go and see how the most famous seeker in the wizarding world is born." Harry's face turned slightly red again when he heard Rowling's compliment. "Then I wish you a happy weekend. I'm leaving first." Rowling looked at Harry's red face and thought to himself that something was wrong. "Run." Hermione frowned slightly and looked at Harry in confusion, while Ron was still eating his breakfast with relish. Rowling had just walked out of the hall door when she suddenly looked up and saw Snape staring at her. "Oh, Mr. Rowling, can I invite you to my office for a chat?" "My pleasure, Professor." Rowling thought quickly, what did Snape want to ask him? Arriving at Snape's office in the basement, Rowling smelled a strong scent of herbs and potions as soon as she entered. Seeing all kinds of bottles of potions in the unknown, she couldn't help but sigh in her heart, what a rich man in Hogwarts. "Please sit down, Mr. Rowling." "So Professor Snape, is there something wrong?" "I want you, the purification spell from potions class. This is what scared me to death." Llewellyn breathed a sigh of relief. "I have to say that the aura of the Sigilado is too strong." Snape looked at Rowling and sighed, and couldn't help frowning. "Of course I can teach you. The spell is power of purification and only people with pure and kind hearts can cast it." Llewellyn thought to himself, you know, the teacher is a person who can skillfully use even the mysterious magic of the Patroness charm. "I'm sure there will be no mistakes this time." At this moment, as soon as the spell came out, Snape drew out his wand without hesitation and muttered something. In an instant, an extremely powerful and majestic purifying force suddenly gushed out like a surging torrent. At the same time, a surprising scene happened. Bright and dazzling light began to flash around Rowling's body, as brilliant as the stars in the night sky. What is even more astonishing is that even the mysterious and powerful purifying force hidden deep within his body seemed to have been inspired by something and could not help but resonate and respond. Then, Luo Lin keenly realized that the purifying power originally hidden in his body was also becoming stronger. Faced with such an incredible situation, Luo Lin couldn't help but be extremely shocked. System, what on earth is going on? Host, don't worry. Since this is based on the purification rules established by the contract, and you have successfully invented this magical spell, when other wizards chant this spell, the pure power they exchange with the purification rules and the magic power they receive back will be greatly reduced. A portion of it will be automatically distributed to you. These powers will be cleverly transformed into tiny but endlessly vital purifying powers, which will be injected into your body. That's a good thing. If I invent other spells, will they have the same effect? If there is a mutual contract with the power of rules, then it will happen. If not, then it won't happen. So that's how it is. After the spell was cast, Professor Snape's legs visibly returned to normal. In exchange, tell me, what do you need? Snape still spoke without emotion. Rowling pondered for a long time. He had always wanted to study the mystery of the soul, but with what he had learned so far, he was really a little stretched. In all the world systems of Harry Potter, it seemed that Voldemort was the real master of soul research, but he seemed to have taken a wrong path. But Rowling didn't want to find Quirrell. But there was a magic that aroused Rowling's interest. That was the Patronus charm. I remember that the Patronus charm was a powerful ancient magic, a protective magic. But what puzzled Luo Lin was that the spell was cast with happiness as the source of power. It was really incredible. Is love really a kind of power? Chapter 41. What is my protection? The love protection magic that Lily Evans cast on Harry Potter is more like its other more niche name, blood contract. On May 2, 1998, in the final duel between Harry and Voldemort, Harry willingly allowed himself to be hit by the killing curse for the sake of all the people at Hogwarts, and said to Voldemort, "You will never kill any of them tonight. I am ready to die to stop you from hurting these people. I did it on purpose. I was determined. This is the key. I did what my mother did. Don't you see that the spells you cast on them have no hold? You can't torture them, you can't hurt them. You never learn from your mistakes. This is a mysterious and powerful ancient counter-spell, usually called Sacrifice Amulet or Sacrifice Protection. This spell is the key to unlock the close bond between blood relatives. In the eyes of some people, the Sacrifice Amulet undoubtedly represents the most supreme protective power. Only when a person's heart is filled with sincere and pure love, will he resolutely give up his precious life. Deliberately use your body to resist the predetermined evil curse, thus saving one or more lives. Because of this, such a person can obtain the awe-inspiring Sacrifice Amulet blessing. This is a blood bond. And love itself has no magic. October 1981, 10 was a heartbreaking day. In that dark moment, Lily sacrificed her precious life without hesitation to protect her beloved son, Harry Potter. It protects Harry from the evil force Voldemort. It is because of Lily's selfless and fearless spirit of self-sacrifice that Harry is blessed with an extremely powerful shield, the Sacrificial Amulet. At that moment, when Voldemort viciously cast the fatal killing curse on Harry, a miracle happened. The vicious curse that was enough to take Harry's life actually produced an amazing backlash effect. Harry did not suffer any other substantial injuries except for a deep, lightning-like scar on his forehead. At the same time, Voldemort suffered an unprecedented blow, and his horrible body was instantly destroyed. In this way, Harry became the only person in the entire wizarding world who could survive such a dangerous killing curse. All of this stems from the infinite power of his great mother's deep and ardent love. Lily used her life to interpret the nobility and selflessness of maternal love, and it was because of this that Harry was given extraordinary courage and perseverance. However, please remember that he is the boy who survived the magical world, so please don't address Harry Potter in this way. Love Guardian Spell Sacrifice Protection Ancient, Powerful and Lasting Guardian Magic. Book continued. After thinking for a long time, Rowling said, "I want to learn the Patronus charm." Snape said with a constipated look on his face, "I will only demonstrate and explain it once. First, if you have a firm guardian in your heart, you can use the guardian spell by reciting the spell. If you don't have a very firm guardian, then think about your best memory. After saying that, Snape waved his wand in the air to make a circle and chanted Expecto Patronum, and a silver-white deer appeared in the air. Although he had thought of it, Rowling was still shocked. Love is powerful. Snape's patroness seemed to have been interpreting the sentence, "My love for you is unswerving." Looking at the demented Rowling sitting there without saying a word, "The demonstration is over, you can leave." Snape's low voice came into his ear. Llewellyn came back to his senses from his trance. At this moment, Llewellyn finally understood the true meaning of it. He suddenly realized that casting the patroness spell was not just about happy emotions, but more importantly, it was about having an unwavering belief in the protection of the heart. That power and feeling that came from the depths of his soul. However, the question lingering in his mind at this moment was, what exactly do I need to protect? In the afternoon, the sun was blazing and dazzling, and the Quidditch field was already bustling with people. Before even stepping into the field, one could hear the surging shouts from afar. Obviously, the fierce competition has begun. Rowling hurried towards the direction of Gryffindor College. As soon as he approached, he heard Ron's familiar and urgent voice calling, "Rowling! Rowling! Come over here quickly, we have reserved a seat for you." "Thank you, Ron." Rowling walked up and sat next to him. From time to time, Harry would use his peripheral vision to see if there was anyone next to Ron. Suddenly, Harry Potter's wand in the sky began to twitch out of control. Everyone in the audience exclaimed. Rowling couldn't help but look from the field to Quirrell. But Quirrell didn't murmur a word. It should be Voldemort behind his head casting a spell. "Rowling, Rowling! Help Harry!" Ron stood aside, shouting anxiously with a face full of anxiety and worry in his voice. However, facing Ron's request, Rowling was hesitant. He knew that if he helped at this moment, it would definitely alert Voldemort. To be honest, Rowling was full of fear of Voldemort. Although as a time traveler, he has the so-called foresight, but in front of the powerful Voldemort, these are useless. After all, his own strength is too low at present. However, he also knows in his heart that Harry will not be in real danger. At this moment, something unexpected happened. Harry actually fell off the Nimbus 2000. His body was falling rapidly in the air, and only his little hands were still holding on to the flying broom. This thrilling scene made Llewellyn's eyes widen instantly. His heart was in turmoil again and he began to hesitate once again. Seeing this, Ron became even more anxious. He rushed to Rowling desperately and begged, "Please, Rowling! I know you can do it. Please, go and save Harry." His eyes revealed endless earnestness and expectation, as if he placed all his hopes on Rowling. At this moment, Rowling was deeply moved by the pure and deep friendship between Ron and Harry. This sincere emotion was like a warm current flowing into his heart, which moved him. Finally, he gritted his teeth. Suddenly, a series of images appeared in his mind. That was Snape falling that night. Falling in front of his beloved child. That was Harry Potter willing to sacrifice himself for everyone, and he was only 17 years old that year. It was a picture of Dumbledore plotting his own death, falling from Gryffindor Tower. Fred Weasley stood up to defend the justice deep in his heart, and finally died heroically. Wait! 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 At this moment, he suddenly understood everything, as if he had been enlightened. He wanted to protect that pure and beautiful emotion, and that unswerving belief. That kind of noble spirit of sacrificing oneself to save others. It seemed that until this moment, he had completely integrated into this wonderful world full of fantasy and adventure. Chapter 42. Fighting to Protect. Llewellyn stood up, holding the mysterious and powerful Arcane wand tightly in his hand, and raised his arm high, as if to touch the sky. He took a deep breath, stared firmly ahead, and then waved the wand vigorously in the air, drawing a perfect circle. As he whispered the ancient and solemn spell "Expect God to guard," a surging and huge magical power like a torrent suddenly emerged. This magical power was like a dazzling light, instantly illuminating the entire arena. Then, in the dazzling light, a gigantic griffin with a silver-white glow all over its body gradually appeared. It spreads its wide wings and soars majestically in the sky, like an unshakable mountain. This griffin is the symbol of Gryffindor College, representing endless courage and perseverance. It holds its head high, its eyes as sharp as a sword, revealing an innate bravery and fearlessness. The meaning of its existence is to protect justice and fight bravely to defend the truth. At the same time, Llewellyn himself began to emit waves of dazzling purifying power. These rays of light continuously poured out of his body, quickly gathered together and merged with the body of the griffin. At this moment, a new and unprecedented spell came into being: ultimate protection. This spell contains endless power. It not only provides indestructible defense, but also has a powerful purification power. At this moment, a jaw-dropping miracle took place on the Quidditch field. A giant griffin appeared without warning, and rushed straight towards Harry Potter like a divine soldier from heaven. Everyone present, whether they were experienced professors or young wizards, even the usually calm and composed Headmaster Dumbledore and the usually serious and rigid Professor Snape, all turned their eyes in the direction of Rowling. Because they knew very well in their hearts that everything that was happening before their eyes was undoubtedly Rowling's Patronus spell. Professor Snape, in particular, had an expression of astonishment and disbelief on his face. His mouth, which had been muttering to himself and preparing to cast a counter curse, froze at this moment, and he completely forgot to continue chanting the spell. At the same time, Voldemort, who was hiding in the dark, also keenly noticed Rowling's actions through Quirrell. Power of purification: any evil and filthy things will be completely purified. As these heart-stirring words rang out, the pure and extremely pure power of purification was like a violent hurricane. The flying broom flew towards Voldemort with overwhelming force, and Voldemort suffered the fierce backlash from this force. Quirrell's face became paler and he looked weaker. Harry was saved and the broomstick stopped shaking. And Rowling instantly fell to the stands due to the exhaustion of his magic power. When Llewellyn woke up again, he was already lying on a bed in the school hospital. Seeing Rowling wake up, Harry hurried to Rowling's side and looked at him with concern. Ron and Hermione also hurried over. "Rowling, how are you?" Harry asked anxiously. Llewellyn held himself up and forced a smile that was uglier than crying. His voice was a little weak. "I'm fine, I just used up all my magic power." Although he said that, his pale face and beads of sweat on his forehead showed how terrible his condition was at the moment. At this moment, a figure slowly walked over. It was Albus Dumbledore, the headmaster of Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry. His deep and wise eyes stared at Rowling, and there flashed a trace of indescribable admiration in them. "Come on, child, drink this bottle of magic potion, and you will be able to recover and be discharged from the hospital after drinking it." Madame Pomfrey pushed away the crowded crowd and shouted loudly. She held a bottle of blue potion emitting mysterious light in her hand and walked quickly to Rowling's bedside. Rowling stretched out his trembling hand and carefully took the bottle of precious potion, his gratitude overflowing with words, "Thank you, Madame Pomfrey." After that, he raised his head and drank the whole bottle of potion without hesitation. In an instant, a cool and refreshing feeling spread through my throat and throughout my body, as if the long dry land had welcomed a sweet rain. Llewellyn clearly felt that the magic power that had been exhausted in his body was burning like a bonfire, quickly filling every nerve and every blood vessel. In the blink of an eye, his originally bloodless face was full of vitality like a flower brushed by the spring breeze, becoming rosy and shiny. Llewellyn's body gradually recovered. After getting out of bed and stretching his muscles, he felt much better. "Thank you for your concern. I'm fine now," Llewellyn said to everyone with a smile. Harry, Ron, and Hermione breathed a sigh of relief and came forward to congratulate Rowling on his recovery. "Rowling, you're awesome. Without you, I might have died," Harry said excitedly. "For the sake of our friendship, you don't have to do this. By the way, Harry, did you win Quidditch?" "Of course, you didn't see that Malfoy's face turned green," Ron said suddenly. "Congratulations, Harry. I want to go back to my dorm now." After returning to the dormitory, Llewellyn immediately lay down on the bed. Although the magic power in his body was restored, he was physically exhausted. It seems that this is the side effect of the magic potion. Slowly, Llewellyn's eyelids became heavier and heavier, and he began to snore. When Llewellyn woke up, it was already the next morning, and the sun had just risen. His stomach was rumbling in protest. Xiao Ke flew over immediately when he saw Llewellyn get up. "How do you feel, Llewellyn? Are you okay?" "Wow! I feel like a new person, full of energy, but my stomach is growling with hunger. Zyok, let's quickly find some delicious breakfast to fill our stomachs. After we are full, how about we go exercise together?" "That's awesome." At this moment, in the center of the Black Lake, Llewellyn stood steadily on the sparkling lake like a calm sculpture. He closed his eyes tightly and concentrated on feeling the rich and active breath of water elements around him. At the same time, he used the powerful magic in his body to continue to explore the mystery and structure of water. You know, in his previous life, Luo Lin was a top student who had studied junior high school chemistry knowledge very thoroughly. At this moment, there is no doubt that Rowling has become Voldemort's target. After racking his brains and thinking hard, Rowling suddenly came up with an extremely bold and amazing idea. As we all know, in this vast natural world, whether it is tangible physical matter or invisible gaseous existence, it is all made up of tiny molecules. And inside these molecules are even finer atoms, as well as protons, neutrons, and other particles. However, the task before him today is extremely difficult to extract the mysterious protons, neutrons, and atomic nuclei from the water element. He concentrated his attention, carefully sensing every fluctuation of the water element around him, and continuously injected his extremely powerful magical energy into it. In an instant, a magical scene happened. The water molecules that were originally as calm as water began to vibrate violently, as if being torn apart by an invisible force, and gradually fell apart. This decomposition is not perceptible to the naked eye, but it really exists in the microscopic world. At this moment, the Eye of Elements shines with unprecedented brilliance, as if announcing to the world the arrival of this great change. After his exquisite manipulation, a crystal-clear atomic nucleus like a pearl slowly appeared in front of Luo Lin. Then, he mobilized the unfathomable magic power without hesitation. The 92 protons and 143 neutrons were like well-trained soldiers, accurately integrating into the tiny nucleus. Finally, a miracle was born. They combined perfectly to create a brand new element, uranium. Having tasted the sweetness, Rowling was not satisfied with this. He continued to do the same thing. With his extraordinary control over magic, he guided the elements through the thrilling journey of decomposition and reorganization time and time again. As time passed, sweat gradually soaked his forehead and slid down his cheeks, but he was unaware of it and devoted himself to this magical experiment full of challenges and unknowns. About half an hour later, the amazing result appeared before his eyes. A whole gram of uranium appeared in Rowling's hand. This was not just a simple and ordinary spell like the one cast by Professor McGonagall, but a brand new item was actually created. Looking at the heavy uranium block in his hand, Luo Lin was very excited and thought to himself. His eyes were shining with excitement and anticipation, as if he had seen the door to infinite possibilities in the future slowly opening. In the end, he made up his mind to personally experience the shocking experience brought by this shocking magic experiment. So, Rowling carefully took out half a gram of extremely precious uranium and used magical power to gently suspend it in the center of the Black Lake. He himself, like a gust of wind, quickly flew to the majestic Hogwarts castle. After standing still, he raised high the magic wand in his hand that was shining with strange light, and focused all his attention on the tiny spot of light in the center of the Black Lake. Then, he mobilized the surging magic power in his body, wrapped around a tiny neutron like a bolt of lightning, and slammed into it with lightning speed. There was a loud bang, and the whole world seemed to be shocked. In an instant, a huge wave like a raging sea rose in the middle of the Black Lake, and a water wall as high as tens of meters rose into the air, with a magnificent momentum that was jaw-dropping. At the same time, an extremely powerful energy spread outward with a devastating force, forming a terrifying shock wave with a diameter of 70 meters, which spread wildly around the Black Lake. "Oh my God, I'm in big trouble." Looking at the completely destroyed trees and devastated scene around the Black Lake, Luo Lin couldn't help but gasp, with an expression of extreme astonishment on his face. Seeing that the situation was out of control, he did not dare to delay for a moment, and immediately spread his wings and flew back to Gryffindor Tower from the outside world at lightning speed. Then, he jumped without hesitation and jumped through the window into his dormitory. Chapter 43. Art is Explosion. Luo Lin, you are too cruel. This is not just a small experiment at all. It's simply a terrible disaster. Xiao Ke said with horror on his face, and there was a slight tremor in his voice, as if he had just experienced a thrilling nightmare. Luo Lin stood by the window, staring into the distance, seemingly unconcerned about what was happening before his eyes. However, when he heard Xiao Ke's accusation, a trace of embarrassment appeared on his face. He subconsciously reached out and scratched his head, trying to ease his inner uneasiness and guilt. At this moment, the entire Hogwarts fell into chaos. The originally peaceful and tranquil campus suddenly became noisy, and all kinds of noisy sounds intertwined together to form a heart-pounding symphony. Especially those Slytherin little wizards living under the Black Lake, they were frightened and panicked by the sudden change. Draco was immersed in a sweet dream, when suddenly, there was a loud noise that shook the earth, like a thunderbolt breaking through the night sky. The huge vibration made him bounce up from the bed and fall heavily to the ground. Then, piercing screams resounded throughout the Slytherin dormitory, as if they were about to break through the roof and reach the sky. This sudden riot not only affected Slytherin College, but other colleges were not spared either. At the same time, Headmaster Dumbledore arrived at the Black Lake at an astonishing speed. His tall and majestic figure was like an unshakable mountain, giving people an incomparable sense of security. Following closely behind were other professors, each riding their broomsticks, rushing towards the scene at lightning speed. Everyone had a serious expression, and they had obviously realized the seriousness of the situation. Looking at the devastation around him, he fell into deep thought. Albus, what's going on? Are the Death Eaters coming to attack Hogwarts? Professor McGonagall asked in surprise. There is no sign of damage to Hogwarts' defensive magic. So, where does such a strong magical fluctuation come from? Could it be that this mysterious power comes from the hands of those young wizards inside Hogwarts? Dumbledore frowned and fell into deep thought. You know, the only person who can cause such huge magical damage is probably a top wizard in the 7th grade. However, at this moment, a flash of inspiration flashed through his mind, and he suddenly cast his eyes towards the Gryffindor Tower in the distance. Yes, that familiar window, isn't it Rowling's dormitory? At the same time, the clever Rowling had already sensed the danger approaching and hid aside in advance. At this moment, Dumbledore had an extremely bold idea in his mind. Could it be that this explosion was caused by Rowling? After all, it is well known that sometimes wizards' intuition can be unpredictable. And it was precisely this intuition that made Dumbledore involuntarily fix his suspicious eyes on Gryffindor Tower. Moreover, every morning, he would see Llewellyn heading towards the Black Lake to practice a set of strange boxing techniques. But today, Llewellyn was nowhere to be seen. Professors, please go back. It seems that there has been quite a commotion in the various colleges. Please go and appease the young wizards. Dumbledore decided to go to Gryffindor Tower to find out for himself. He used magic and climbed up the tower easily. When he opened the door, he found that there was no one in the room. Strange, where is Rowling? Dumbledore muttered to himself. He looked around and suddenly noticed a note on the table. It read, "Dear Headmaster Dumbledore, I know you will come to me. This incident was my negligence and I will take responsibility. But now I have an important thing to do, and I will explain it to you when I come back." Rowling. Dumbledore frowned. He didn't know what Rowling was up to, but he believed that Rowling would not do anything to harm the school. "I hope you can come back soon, Rowling," Dumbledore said softly. Indeed, sometimes the wizard's intuition is really accurate. When Rowling keenly caught Dumbledore's gaze, he rushed out of the dormitory without hesitation. He was as agile as a cheetah and as light as a flying bird, and disappeared at the door of the dormitory in the blink of an eye. Then, like a ghost hidden in the dark, he quietly hid in a hidden corner outside the castle, quietly staring at the busy professors. At this moment, Llewellyn tightly grasped the mysterious seal staff in his hand, as if it was the source of his power. He took a deep breath, concentrated his mind, then gently raised the staff and accurately pointed it at the Clow card-named tree. As he moved, an invisible energy gushed out from the sealing staff like a surging wave, rushing straight towards the card that was flickering with a faint light. Then, a dazzling green light suddenly burst out, illuminating the entire dark corner. In this brilliant light, a beautiful tree elf exuding powerful magic gradually appeared. Llewellyn stared at the Clow card in front of him with wide eyes and full of expectation. He whispered in a low voice, "Tree elf with powerful magic, please show me your true strength. Use your endless vitality to bring life back to this devastated forest." His voice was full of determination and conviction. The tree elf obeyed Rowling's call and shuttled through the devastated woods around her. As her magic power continued to emerge, the broken trees around her gradually recovered to their original appearance. At this moment, Dumbledore did not leave Rowling's dormitory. He stood quietly beside Rowling's dormitory window. With his control over Hogwarts Castle, it seemed as if there was an invisible force guiding him, allowing him to easily determine Rowling's exact location. He slowly cast his gaze out of the window, his eyes passed through layers of obstacles, and finally fixed on the remote corner where Llewellyn was. In an instant, a dazzling light suddenly burst out from that corner. This ray of light was like a bright star. Then, a powerful and vigorous magical power swept over like a surging ocean wave. In this gorgeous magical ocean, a beautiful green elf quietly emerged. She was graceful, like a fairy descending from the earth. Her skin is crystal clear and exudes a charming luster, her long hair is as soft as silk and dances in the wind. Her appearance has brought endless hope and vitality to this devastated place. What is amazing is that with the arrival of this mysterious green elf, the severely damaged lands began to recover at an astonishing speed. The original dilapidated scene gradually disappeared, replaced by a lush and colorful scene. The grass was green, the trees were lush, and the flowers were blooming with colorful light, as if showing the miracle of life to the world. Dumbledore, who witnessed all this, could not help but be shocked, and a feeling of sincere admiration surged in his heart. Just as Rowling was looking at the slowly recovering Black Lake, Dumbledore appeared behind him. What a powerful magic! Then, Mr. Rowling, can you explain to me the cause of this explosion? Chapter 44. Failure begins with arrogance. Rowling was startled. Oh! Principal Dumbledore, I'm so sorry. Are you always so elusive? I was experimenting with a new magic this morning, but this magic is a little bit too powerful. Are you saying that you have made improvements and breakthroughs in the mysterious and powerful field of magic through the research results of those ordinary muggles who know nothing about magic? Dumbledore asked suspiciously. You know, in the entire magical world, the vast majority of wizards simply disdain the mundane and trivial daily lives of muggles. Even Dumbledore himself, who is known for his tolerance and wisdom, has always believed in his heart that these ordinary humans are too weak and powerless. However, at this moment, he could not imagine that behind this seemingly insignificant discovery, there was such a tremendous and earth-shaking energy hidden. That's right, respected Headmaster Dumbledore, please believe my judgment, what you just saw is just the tip of the iceberg. In fact, with this incredible science and technology, the Muggles once easily destroyed an entire bustling city and turned it into ruins. Rowling answered with a firm and serious look on his face. If you want to see it, I can do it again. Oh, wait a minute, Rowling, I feel like my brain is undergoing a wonderful transformation, as if it's going to grow a brain. At this moment, Dumbledore's thoughts surged like a tide, and memories of the past flooded into his mind, making him involuntarily think of the old man Grindelwald, who once fought alongside him and was both his enemy and friend. Back then, Grindelwald proposed the shocking Muggle threat theory, and now, Rowling in front of him has successfully replicated the advanced technology in the Muggle world in an unprecedented way using magical magic. Dumbledore fell into deep thought. If Rowling could reproduce the technological achievements of Muggles through magical means, then those ordinary humans, the so-called Muggles. Is it possible for them to replicate or even surpass the mysterious magic with the help of the science and technology they have mastered? In this way, wouldn't the balance of power between the entire wizarding world and the Muggle society be completely broken? Is there really a deviation in the ideas and beliefs that I have always adhered to? Little Llewellyn, this matter is too important and serious to be taken lightly. I think we must immediately gather all the professors in the academy to discuss this matter and conduct an in-depth study of this unique magic you performed. Dumbledore said with a serious expression that he knew the far-reaching impact this discovery might bring and he must not take it lightly. After all, once the secrets of magic were known and used by the Muggle world, the consequences would be disastrous. Dumbledore waved his wand, and thousands of silver white paper cranes flew towards the professors, of course not including Professor Quirrell. Before long, those usually respected and knowledgeable professors came into Rowling's sight one by one. To his surprise, Professor McGonagall's mysterious animagus form lightly jumped down from a window of Gryffindor Tower. Then, like a nimble elf, it jumped and shuttled swiftly between the windows on the outer wall, its posture agile and elegant, and finally landed steadily on the ground in an extremely free and easy manner. Albus, have you successfully found the hateful criminal who dared to attack our Hogwarts? Professor McGonagall asked anxiously, revealing a hint of nervousness and anticipation in her tone. At the same time, Snape was staring at Rowling standing next to Dumbledore with a suspicious look, as if he wanted to see through the secret hidden deep in his heart through his appearance. Yes, before that, I would like to ask all professors to follow me to a place. Dumbledore used the authority of Hogwarts Castle to transfer all professors, including rolling, out of the castle. And the secret room on the third floor of the castle seemed to have disappeared. Under the leadership of Dumbledore, all the professors apparat to a deserted place. Then please start, little rolling. Llewellyn took out the remaining half-gram of uranium. He lifted it up in the air with his magic power, and then quickly retreated 100 meters away. All the professors did the same. Finally, Llewellyn raised his wand high and cast a spell as quickly as he did in the Black Lake. With a loud bang, a huge deep pit with a diameter of 70 meters appeared. All the professors were stunned. This is the explosive magic that Rowling developed through the scientific achievements of Muggles. In other words, Muggles have mastered even more terrifying damage than this. I wonder if the professors have any opinions. Professor Flitwick said excitedly, this is truly a major breakthrough in the wizarding world. We must study it thoroughly as quickly as possible to improve our defense capabilities. Professor McGonagall said thoughtfully, but this also means that the technological level of the Muggle world may have surpassed our imagination. We need to strengthen our understanding of the Muggle world. Snape snorted coldly, this may be a threat to us from Muggles. We can't let them master this kind of power. Dumbledore smiled and said, the wizarding world and the Muggle world have always maintained a delicate balance. What we need to do is to find a better way to communicate with the Muggle world. Rowling, you've done a great job. You can continue your research, but you must also be careful. Rowling, I have another question. If one day Muggle technology poses a threat to the wizarding world, how long do you think it will take? If nothing unexpected happens, I think 100 years will be enough, Rowling said firmly. When Dumbledore re-entered Hogwarts, he took out a pen and paper without hesitation, as if he had already prepared to write down what was on his mind. His strokes were firm and powerful, and every word revealed deep thought and worry. My dear friend, I think you may be right, but the method you adopted was too extreme. Now, I am facing the same dilemma, which is even more serious than before. However, the magic world is in trouble both internally and externally at the moment, and I feel that I am powerless and unable to deal with so many problems. I wonder if you can give me some advice. Meanwhile, Llewellyn, who was far away on the other side, didn't care about what happened. He firmly believed that with his own strength, no one could stop him from moving forward. This confidence was not unfounded. After all, he had gone through countless challenges over the years and had never encountered a truly insurmountable obstacle. But at this moment, Llewellyn suddenly realized that he had such a thought. He couldn't help asking himself, why do I feel so powerful that no one can stop me? Could it be that I have also unknowingly developed the bad habit of arrogance like those wizards? This terrible discovery made Llewellyn alert instantly. In order to remind himself to stay humble and vigilant, Llewellyn took up the tools without hesitation and carved the 4 characters repeatedly on the door. He knew that failure often started from the arrogance in one's heart, and only by constantly alerting himself could he avoid repeating the same mistakes. Chapter 45. Forbidden Explosive Spell. Rowling lay quietly on the soft bed, his eyes closed, but his mind was churning like a storm. He was immersed in the magic circuit he had just explored and thinking deeply. Although he had successfully copied the Muggles' remarkable research results with his own outstanding talent and hard work, he was still full of doubts at this moment. This magic skill is indeed extremely powerful, but there are many problems in its actual use. First, it takes too long to cast the spell. If you encounter an enemy attack at a critical moment, you may die before you can complete your preparations. Second, its power is too amazing. Once it explodes, the impact generated is difficult for even you to bear. In this way, when he really faces such a terrifying opponent as Voldemort, he will be the first to fall. Thinking of this, Rowling frowned, realizing that he must find a more stable and effective way to control this powerful and dangerous force. After careful consideration, an idea gradually emerged in his mind. Can magic be allowed to construct an ideal magic circuit by itself? This is also the composition theory of spells, which is a 5th grade course. But Llewellyn wanted to learn without a teacher. With this question in mind, Llewellyn did not hesitate to conduct experiments again and again. He concentrated on analyzing, disassembling, and recombining various complex magic elements. At the same time, he continuously injected surging magic power into it. As time passed, the dormitory where Llewellyn was located was filled with increasingly strong magical fluctuations. After disassembling, structuring, and reorganizing day after day, he spent every day in his own experiments except for classes, always gaining a little but always in vain. Finally, after visiting Professor Flitwick many times, a miracle happened. Rowling was surprised to find that the originally chaotic and disordered magic particles began to flow in an orderly manner according to the trajectory he preset, and finally converged into a flawless magic circuit. At this moment, he knew that he had made a breakthrough, and a new and unique forbidden spell came into being, Explosive Flame Taboo. This mysterious spell that belongs exclusively to Llewellyn contains unimaginable destructive power, and the amount of energy generated by the explosion depends entirely on the amount of magic power invested by the caster. In other words, as long as Llewellyn is willing, he can control the scale of the explosion at will, which is a qualitative leap. It is far more powerful than ordinary blasting spells. Compared with the Thunderbolt explosion spell, it is just a magic that releases the magic power in the wizard's body and produces an explosion. It is just like the power of gunpowder for muggles. And Llewellyn realized a variety of spell needs from precise strikes to comprehensive destruction. From now on, Explosion Taboo will become the most destructive spell in his hands. Just like the destructive power in the Black Lake today, if uranium is not extracted in advance, using this new spell will consume half of Llewellyn's current magic power. This is already amazing enough. At present, the amount of magic power reserves in his body is probably just reaching the level of a third-year wizard. It can use such a huge destructive power. If Dumbledore mastered it, wouldn't he be able to destroy a city directly? It's a pity that it can't be spread out at present, otherwise I'd have to let Seamus Finnegan try it. Will there be unexpected gains from this natural blaster? Rowling was very excited. With this spell, he had the power to protect himself. Facing the low-health Voldemort, he also had the right to bargain. He planned to reward himself. Just as I took off my robe, which looked increasingly worn due to multiple magical injuries, I heard Harry shouting and knocking on the door outside. Llewellyn waved his hand, and the power of wind that emerged from his hand opened the door of the dormitory. "Oh, Harry, how can I help you?" "Yes, Rowling, we have a question that we have never been able to find the answer to. Do you know Nicholas Flamel?" Rowling covered his head, speechless. With academic masters like Hermione and Granger, they had made no progress at all. Shouldn't they ask the professor? It seems that we need to add some progress to them. "Oh, Harry, I actually know him. I have seen this name on a wizard card. If you want to know more about him, you can start from this aspect. I remember that Ron has a lot of wizard cards in his hands." Rowling looked at Ron next to him and said to them. Ron slapped his forehead and said regretfully, "I should have thought of it earlier." "Thank you, Rowling." Watching the two little ones leave, he muttered, "Should he look for Voldemort's Horcrux? It seems that Ravenclaw's crown is in the castle." "Oh, forget it. It seems meaningless to me now. Let's give it to the savior Harry Potter." He decided to reward himself by going to the auditorium for a big meal and putting on a brand new robe. With his confident smile and handsome face, he exuded a noble and elegant temperament. Rowling raised his hands and was about to put on the new robe when he saw the storage ring in his hand glowing. "What's going on?" He was confused, but still immersed his consciousness in the storage ring. At this moment, an amazing scene happened. A spiral horn emitting mysterious golden and silver light appeared out of thin air in Llewellyn's palm. There is no doubt that this horn came from the vast, gloomy, and dark forest where Rowling lived. It was a precious gift given to him by the noble unicorn Nadal. Faced with this sudden change, Llewellyn couldn't help but wonder, what exactly happened? He tried to calm his originally restless heart, and concentrated on sensing and understanding the subtle changes taking place in the unicorn horn. Suddenly, a wave of urgent thoughts of seeking help poured into his mind. It was as if countless voices were calling for help at the same time. Could it be that in the depths of the dark forest, the tribe to which Nadal belonged was facing an unprecedented crisis? Thinking of this, Llewellyn did not hesitate to mobilize the hidden power of purification in his body, and then continuously injected it into the horn that was shining with strange light. In an instant, the whole horn seemed to be ignited, bursting out with dazzling brilliance, like a rising moon, illuminating everything in the dormitory. Then, a bright light as thin as a hair shot out from the top of the horn, like an extremely accurate compass, pointing out the direction for Rowling to move forward. However, unexpectedly, the target pointed by this light was not the dark forest, but the dense jungle full of taboos and unknowns near Hogwarts Castle, the Forbidden Forest. When his eyes fell on the scene before him, Rowling suddenly understood in his heart that there was no doubt that Voldemort must have begun hunting unicorns. At this moment, Rowling couldn't help but fall into deep hesitation. Should he go to the dangerous Forbidden Forest? After all, if he really stepped into the Forbidden Forest, he would most likely encounter Voldemort. However, after careful consideration, Rowling finally made up his mind resolutely. I think Voldemort must be in an extremely weak state now, otherwise why would he urgently need the blood of the unicorn to maintain his life? Even if he can't defeat the opponent, can't he even escape? What's more, the last time I was among the Natal tribe, my purification power was significantly improved, so maybe I can gain something this time as well. It should be noted that opportunities are often accompanied by dangers. If he does not even dare to face up to Voldemort, who is so weak at the moment, how can he achieve great things and transcend the world in the long years and eternity? Chapter 46, Deal with Snape. Rushing around without a clue is not my style, that's Harry Potter's recklessness. Thinking carefully and taking every step carefully is what really suits my character, Rowling. Maybe I should go to Professor Snape to get some magic-enhancing supplements. At this moment, if we talk about the wizarding world's leading potion master, it must be Professor Snape. What exactly is needed to exchange for him? He had previously gone to Madame Pomfrey to seek answers, only to learn that the potion he had taken before was brewed by Snape. Although Rowling has no shortage of currency such as gold galleons nowadays, magic growth supplements with such excellent effects are extremely rare in the market, and it is hard to come by. As Llewellyn looked around, suddenly, his sight was attracted by a shining unicorn horn. Why not just get some powder from this unicorn horn? After all, such a unique unicorn must have extraordinary magical effects. Thinking of this, Llewellyn couldn't help but feel secretly happy, as if he had seen the dawn of success. Llewellyn used his magic wand to turn a piece of iron into a file, and used it to grind the horn. His heart was bleeding, because this was the only unique horn besides the one in Natal. It was really useless if he used it a little. For Llewellyn at the moment, rare things are never expensive, but unique. Finally, after collecting a small bottle, Llewellyn quickly put away the file. I feel so sad. When I arrived at Professor Snape's basement office, I smelled a strong scent of potion outside. Boom! 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 Is there no one? Llewellyn wondered doubtfully. But how could there be the smell of refining magic potion? Llewellyn knocked on the door again, knock. 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 Finally, the tightly closed door was pushed open from the inside. Snape's gloomy and angry face appeared at the door. He stared at Rowling fiercely and said coldly, "If it weren't for something as serious as Dumbledore's death, how dare you come and disturb me while I am carefully brewing a potion? If so, I will throw your stupid head full of Sphinx directly into the crucible." At this moment, Llewellyn was completely stunned, as if the whole world had stopped turning, and he stood there blankly. The sudden shock made him lose the ability to think, and he could only react based on the most primitive instinct. He clenched the small bottle of unicorn powder that was sparkling with dazzling gold and silver light in his hand tightly as if it were a life-saving straw, and held it high up, placing it between himself and Snape, as if this could build an indestructible line of defense. Snape's eyes were initially fixed on Rowling's face, which was distorted by horror, but were soon drawn to the mysterious little bottle in his hand. At this moment, Snape's expression changed dramatically. The raging anger that had been burning in his eyes gradually died down, replaced by a look of astonishment that could not be described in words. Without the slightest hesitation, Snape stretched out his hand like a nimble cheetah and snatched the small bottle at lightning speed. His action was so swift and fast that Rowling had no time to react. Rowling was extremely anxious as he watched Snape take the bottle of extremely rare powder for himself. Just when he was about to ask Professor Snape if he could exchange it for a magic-enhancing potion, something strange happened. Suddenly there was a dull thud, and the heavy door in front of him slammed shut without any warning, making a deafening sound. Then, Snape's deep and majestic voice came from behind the closed door, "This time it will be regarded as a punishment for you for disturbing me, and also as compensation for my bad potion." Snape looked at the strange powder in his hand, dipped a little with his hand, put it in his mouth and tasted it, and he knew that it was the powder of unicorn horn, and it was not an ordinary unicorn horn. He smiled secretly. At this point, Rowling was dumbfounded. The script didn't seem to be written this way. Shouldn't it be that I took out the bottle of powder, and then Church welcomed me in, and we happily concluded the deal? Did Snape give all his tenderness to Lily Evans and Harry Potter? Rowling continued to knock on the door. Snape appeared in front of Rowling again and looked at him without saying a word. Professor Snape, if I still have a little bit of such precious and rare unicorn horn powder left, I wonder if we can make a deal. Rowling's voice was so light that it seemed like it could be blown away by the wind. Snape's eyes, as deep as pools of water, instantly flashed a sharp light. He stared at Rowling closely, as if he wanted to see through the other's true thoughts through his appearance. Then he said in an unquestionable tone, I only have 10 minutes. After that, he slightly turned sideways, indicating that he would allow Rowling to enter his office. Rowling took a deep breath and walked into Snape's office with a slightly heavy step. He walked straight to a chair and sat down, then carefully took out the mysterious horn from his arms. He held the file tightly and rubbed it hard on the horn without mercy. Snape saw this scene with an expression of disbelief on his face. He stared at the horn in Rowling's hand, which was gradually being worn away, with his eyes wide open, thinking to himself. Is this what you call a little? This is ridiculous. However, despite being full of doubts and dissatisfaction, Snape did not lose his temper on the spot. He just silently observed Rowling's next move. As time passed, Rowling finally stopped what he was doing. He put the shrunk horn back into his arms. Then, he picked up the small bottle on Professor Snape's desk and carefully poured the freshly ground unicorn horn powder into it. After finishing all this, Rowling raised his head, looked at Snape firmly, and asked softly, Professor, I hope to get a bottle of magic-enhancing potion prepared by you personally. I wonder if this request can be met. Snape looked at Rowling silently, with a hint of subtle admiration in his eyes. He picked up the bottle of unicorn horn powder and shook it gently. Deal, Snape said succinctly. Rowling breathed a sigh of relief. He didn't expect Snape to be so straightforward. However, I have one condition, Snape added. Llewellyn's heart tightened. What conditions? You have to tell me where you got this unicorn horn. Snape stared at Rowling sharply. Rowling hesitated for a moment. He didn't want to expose the unicorn's habitat, but he also knew that if he didn't agree to Snape's conditions, he might not be able to get such a magical potion with such therapeutic effects in the future. I can tell you, but you have to promise not to leak it out. Rowling finally said. Snape nodded slightly, I promise. Rowling recounts his experiences in the Dark Forest, including his encounter with Nadal and his rescue of the unicorn tribe. After listening to this, Snape fell into deep thought. I see, it is indeed a one-of-a-kind unicorn, he muttered to himself. Finally, Snape handed Rowling another bottle of magic potion. Rowling took the 2 bottles of magic potion in his hand, looked at Snape's meaningful eyes, and hugged the unicorn tightly in his arms. Thank you, Professor. After saying that, Rowling turned around and ran out of Professor Snape's office. Snape stood quietly, his eyes following Rowling's retreating figure. His usually tense face slightly raised up, revealing a barely perceptible smile. His gaze slowly moved back to the small bottle on the table, which was filled with fine powder like dust. This was the spoils he had just obtained from Rowling. He stared at the mysterious powder and thought to himself, it is actually produced by a mutated unicorn? It is incredible. Such a rare material is beyond imagination. I didn't expect that I would be lucky enough to obtain such a precious thing today. Thinking about it, Snape couldn't help but feel more excited about this unexpected surprise. Chapter 47. Confinement. Snape walked to the wall, reached out and gently lifted the old oil painting covering it. As the painting was lifted, a secret door quietly appeared. It turned out that there was an unknown closet hidden behind it. He carefully pushed open the cabinet door, and a strong herbal aroma immediately hit him. Looking closely, he saw that the cabinet was neatly lined with various rare and precious magical herbs, which were dazzling. Finally, Snape carefully placed the 2 bottles of unicorn horn powder in his hands at the top of the closet, as if they were invaluable treasures that needed to be properly placed and cherished. After doing all this, he gently closed the cabinet door. At this time, Rowling had already arrived outside Hogwarts Castle and once again injected the power of purification into the horn. Following the guidance of the light, he walked towards the Forbidden Forest. Seeing that there were no little wizards around, Rowling took off into the depths of the Forbidden Forest. Soon, Llewellyn arrived at a canyon deep in the Forbidden Forest. Looking at the groups of unicorns below, a faint glow of natural affinity emerged from Luo Lin's body, and he descended from the sky. All the unicorns looked at the human wizard descending from the sky with curiosity, and then they all shifted their attention to the glowing horn in his hand. You don't have to panic, I am Rolling Gandalf. I am the Wizard of Hogwarts. I came here because I was inspired by this unicorn horn. Could it be that it was you who summoned me here? Rolling said pretentiously, after all, that's what the masters say, Rolling thought to himself. At this moment, a particularly tall and mighty unicorn slowly walked out from the group of unicorns. It held its head high, walked steadily and gracefully, and exuded an awe-inspiring aura. Hello, respected Lord Rolling. I am Tart, the leader of this group of unicorns. A few months ago, we received a message from the unicorn tribe in the distant dark forest, saying that you have arrived at Hogwarts. Tart responded respectfully. Then it continued, Nadal has asked us to help you with all our strength if you encounter any difficulties or obstacles. However, things have not gone as we wish, and now we are facing a very serious predicament. There is a notorious black wizard who keeps searching for and killing my people. I have no choice but to ask you for help. This black wizard is extremely powerful and treacherous, and it is really difficult to deal with him. After saying this, Tart's eyes showed deep worry and helplessness. Not long ago, we have sent an urgent notice to Hogwarts and informed the warden responsible for guarding this forbidden area. But unfortunately, this series of measures does not seem to have achieved any significant results. Faced with such a difficult situation, I heard that you are a great wizard with extraordinary strength and a kind heart. Only someone like you who possesses extraordinary abilities and a kind heart can dispel the haze of fear that permeates the hearts of those pure, innocent, and gentle unicorns. His words were full of expectation and trust, as if he placed all his hopes on the person in front of him. The one who attacked you is undoubtedly that vicious, insidious, and cunning dark wizard. I rushed here for only one purpose: to help you fight against this terrible enemy. However, I cannot stay in your tribe's territory for long. However, please rest assured, according to my premonition and calculation, in a few months, that extremely hateful black wizard will be expelled. If you are attacked again in the future, you can always pass on the news to me. But, Chief Tartar, friendship has always been mutual. I wonder what Chief Tartar plans to rely on to build a deep and solid friendship between us. As soon as he finished speaking, the slender and sharp horn on Tartar's head gradually began to emit a dazzling light. At the same time, in the entire unicorn tribe's territory, a huge stone tablet with elaborate carvings and intricate mysterious patterns also resonated and began to emit waves of strange energy fluctuations. Then, an exquisite ring shining with brilliant silver light slowly rose from inside the stone tablet, as if pulled by some mysterious force, and finally floated steadily in the air. This is the holy object cherished by us, the unicorns of the Forbidden Forest, the unicorn ring. This time, I am willing to dedicate it to you. Talter said solemnly, his eyes full of sincerity and determination. Luo Lin took the charmingly glowing unicorn ring with great interest and examined it carefully. After some research, he was pleasantly surprised to find that the ring was actually an extremely rare magical device. At this moment, he couldn't help but feel more favorable towards the unicorns in front of him. He looked at them with a smile and said, I have truly felt your deep friendship. When Luo Lin put on the ring, the magic power in his body became purer and had a slight upward trend. This was the power of the magic device. Rolling then left the unicorn's territory and flew over the Forbidden Forest. When he flew out of the Forbidden Forest, Rolling saw Harry Potter and his two companions taking a night walk, running out of Hogwarts Castle and heading towards the hut next to the Forbidden Forest. And behind them followed a Draco. That should be Hagrid's cabin. What are they doing here so late at night? Luo Lin couldn't help but become curious. Because Luo Lin had been studying the spell explosion taboo during this period, he didn't pay attention to what the three little ones were doing. Rolling used the shadow card to cover his figure and hid in the darkness. He quietly followed behind Draco. At this moment, Harry Potter carefully walked to Hagrid's slightly shabby door, raised his hand and knocked gently. However, when Hagrid opened the door, he was extremely cautious, as if he was afraid of being discovered, and his eyes kept looking around. This strange behavior immediately aroused the curiosity of Rolling, who was hiding nearby. He stared at everything in front of him with wide eyes, secretly wondering what might happen next. At the same time, Draco lay quietly outside the window, also looking into the house. Suddenly, they noticed a huge egg in the room. The egg was trembling slightly, as if something was about to break out of the shell. Then, tiny cracks quickly appeared on the surface of the eggshell and gradually expanded. In the blink of an eye, a small and exquisite dragon baby struggled to break free and drilled out of the cracked eggshell. Draco stared at this magical scene in astonishment, his mouth slightly open, completely shocked by the sight before him. But in an instant, as if he realized some danger, he turned around abruptly and fled back to the castle like a gust of wind. Rowling saw this and shook his head helplessly, thinking, it seems that Harry is going to be in trouble this time. As expected, not long after, Draco led the serious-looking Professor McGonagall to Hagrid's hut. The poor three little ones were caught on the spot without any preparation. "Good evening." Professor McGonagall stared at them coldly. "I have repeated it many times, this is absolutely not allowed, students must not walk around the castle without permission at night. Therefore, you will be punished for your behavior and 50 points will be deducted." Professor McGonagall said seriously. 50 points? 50 copies per person. To ensure that you don't make the same mistake again in the future, all 4 of you will be put in solitary confinement. Excuse me, Professor, are you talking about 4 people? Draco asked in surprise. Did you hear me correctly, Mr. Malfoy? Although your intentions were good, you broke the school rules by walking around at night without permission. You will be in detention with your classmates. Rowling hid in the night, watching Draco's funny scene. He tried not to laugh out loud. Chapter 48, Facing the Mysterious Man. Suddenly, Professor McGonagall's sharp eyes moved as fast as lightning, and locked onto Rowling's position. She shouted, "Who's hiding there? Show up!" It turned out that there was an extremely strong aura of magic surrounding Rowling. This powerful energy fluctuation was really hard to ignore, and naturally aroused Professor McGonagall's vigilance and attention. Faced with such a situation, Llewellyn felt helpless, but he had to slowly remove the disguise he had imposed on himself. With an awkward smile on his face, he said softly, "Hello, Professor McGonagall. It's a beautiful night tonight." However, at this moment, Professor McGonagall's face was extremely gloomy, as if it was covered by dark clouds. At the same time, Draco and the other 3 little guys were completely shocked. They stared with eyes wide open and expressions of disbelief on their faces. Even Rowling, who was so close to them, didn't notice his existence. Professor McGonagall's eyes widened with anger, and she announced sternly, "Mr. Rowling, it looks like your name must be added to the detention list this time." Before she finished her words, she turned and walked away, leaving behind a trail of footsteps that gradually faded away. When Professor McGonagall completely disappeared from sight, the 4 little guys immediately surrounded Rowling like hungry tigers. They asked in a flurry, "Rowling, why are you here?" Rowling scratched his head and replied with a wry smile, I said I just happened to pass by here, would you believe me?" Suddenly, Draco shouted in horror, "Did Professor McGonagall just order you to accept the detention punishment without mentioning deducting your points?" His face flushed and he was extremely emotional, as if he had been treated extremely unfairly. "This is absolutely ridiculous!" Draco continued to shout, his voice echoing in the air. He couldn't understand why there was such a difference in treatment. However, Rowling just stood there, looking up at the sky, whistling, and saying, "The weather is really nice today, haha." At this moment, a light sound of footsteps was heard, and everyone turned their heads to look. They saw a figure slowly walking out from the depths of the castle, holding a dim oil lamp in his hand. The figure seemed a little hunched, and he staggered towards the hut. As the distance gradually shortened, everyone finally saw the face of the person coming. It turned out to be the administrator Filch. His gloomy and rigid face was expressionless, but his eyes revealed a hint of majesty. When Filch came up to him, he spoke in a low, hoarse voice, "Professor McGonagall has instructed me to inform you of the specific arrangements for tonight's detention. Tonight, you will follow Hagrid to patrol the Forbidden Forest." Hearing this, there was an uproar at the scene. Especially Draco, he widened his eyes and asked in disbelief, "Go to the Forbidden Forest? You must be kidding us. That place is strictly forbidden for young wizards to set foot in. And it is said that there are terrible werewolves lurking in it." However, in the face of Draco's questioning, Filch did not explain much, but responded coldly, "Oh, it's not just a werewolf." After that, he turned and left, leaving a group of stunned students. "Good luck to you. In the next few days, Rolling and the four little ones patrolled the Forbidden Forest. On this day, they were patrolling in the Forbidden Forest as usual. Luo Lin was walking in front and inspecting everywhere, when suddenly a large pool of blood appeared on the ground. It was silver-white blood. "What is this?" Harry asked. "Unicorn blood." "Stop." There was a strange sound ahead, as if something was struggling. Luo Lin signaled everyone to stay alert, and then cautiously moved forward. As everyone slowly approached, the scene before them was shocking. A severely injured unicorn fell helplessly on the ground, its body covered with countless hideous wounds, blood constantly oozing out of it, like a tragic picture. The poor unicorn seemed to have sensed the arrival of Luo Lin and his group. Its originally dull eyes now shone with a faint but eager light. It recognized Luo Lin, who had fallen from the sky that day. At this moment, its tenacious vitality was constantly struggling. However, at this moment, a figure wearing a black cloak and a hood suddenly came into everyone's sight. This person exuded a gloomy and strange aura, like a messenger from the dark abyss. Seeing this, Luo Lin's heart sank suddenly, and a strong sense of crisis instantly surged into his heart. He chanted the ancient and powerful spell loudly without hesitation, "Ultimate Guardian." As Luo Lin muttered something, a dazzling light suddenly burst out. Then, a majestic silver-white griffin appeared out of thin air and pounced directly towards the Black Wizard at lightning speed. At the same time, the Black Wizard was not willing to be outdone. He quickly waved the magic wand in his hand and shouted loudly, "Avada Kedavra." In an instant, a ray of green light shot out like lightning and rushed straight towards the griffin. In a flash, the griffin nimbly dodged the fatal blow. However, the Dark Wizard took the opportunity to turn around and escape into the Forbidden Forest, disappearing without a trace in the blink of an eye. Seeing this, Luo Lin did not dare to neglect it at all. He immediately took out the bottle of extremely precious magic potion from his arms, raised his head and took a big sip, but did not drink the whole bottle of potion. After all, there might be danger next, and he must always maintain sufficient magic reserves. Facing such a powerful enemy, Rolling knew that he could not relax at all. Therefore, when he attacked this time, he had already put all his strength into it without reservation. Others did not know that he knew that it was Voldemort. At this moment, the dying unicorn was still lying quietly on the ground, looking very close to death. Luo Lin hurried forward, stretched out his hands, mobilized the endless purification power in his body, and carefully dispelled the evil and sinister magic aura lingering around the unicorn. With Luo Lin's unremitting efforts, a miracle finally happened. The shocking wounds on the unicorn began to gradually close and heal, and the originally snow-white skin regained vitality. Looking at the unicorn that had regained its life, Luo Lin's exhausted face finally showed a relieved smile. Draco, Harry, and the others immediately gathered around and looked at the unicorn that was emitting a silver-white light. Tears of gratitude flashed in the unicorn's eyes. It leaned gently towards Rolling and rubbed him with its head. At this time, there was another rustling sound in the bushes next to him, and Luo Lin immediately became alert. "Who's there? Come out quickly." Luo Lin raised his wand and asked. "Don't worry, little wizards. I'm a centaur, you can call me Fraser," said the centaur as he walked out of the grass. At this moment, Rolling was relieved. He knew that Fraser was the only centaur tribe in the Forbidden Forest who was not hostile to wizards, and he even served as a professor of astronomy at Hogwarts. Fraser continued, "You should leave here as soon as possible, because the monster that attacked the unicorn is Voldemort. The reason why he is here is because there is a treasure in Hogwarts school that can bring Voldemort back to life." As he spoke, he stared at Harry Potter next to him. Then it turned around and walked deeper into the forest with the unicorn, and soon disappeared. "Rolling, you're amazing," Draco said excitedly. "It seems that we have to be more careful when patrolling the Forbidden Forest in the future," Rolling said with a serious expression. At this time, Hagrid walked over from not far away. "Are you all okay? I heard some noise over here," he asked with concern. "We're fine, Hagrid," Rolling replied, "a dark wizard just attacked the unicorn, but we've driven him away." Hagrid frowned, "Another dark wizard? It seems that the school's security situation is becoming more and more serious. I will report this matter to Headmaster Dumbledore. You should also pay attention to safety, especially in the Forbidden Forest. Well, today's patrol is over. Let's go back." However, Rolling walked to the pool of unicorn blood. He took out his wand and took out many 125 ml empty bottles from the ring. He chanted a spell and the silver-white blood turned into strands and entered the empty bottles one by one. It filled up more than 20 bottles. Chapter 49. Brave Harry. Rowling stared at Malfoy and the others with great interest, his lips slightly raised, revealing a sly smile. Hey, everyone, do you want to consider it? This is a very precious thing. If you want, I can give you some. As he spoke, he gently shook the liquid in the transparent glass bottle in his hand that was sparkling with mysterious light unicorn blood. However, Draco Malfoy shook his head without hesitation to refuse. Then, Rowling said, "This bottle is very valuable. It can be exchanged for a large number of gold galleons." After saying that, he deliberately shook the bottle in his hand, causing ripples in the unicorn blood inside. Harry Potter was somewhat tempted but still didn't take it. After all, he still had a lot of gold galleons in his vault. In contrast, Hermione Granger seemed very calm and composed. She seemed to be completely immune to this material temptation and just stood quietly by. Ron Weasley was different from the others. When he heard that this bottle of unicorn blood could be exchanged for so many gold galleons, his eyes lit up. He secretly calculated how much benefit this money could bring him, but when he saw that no one around him expressed any interest, he felt a little embarrassed to speak up. At this moment, Rowling suddenly made an unexpected move. He took out 2 bottles of unicorn blood, then strode to Ron, stuffed one of the bottles into his arms, and said with a smile, "Here, Ron. Help me bring this bottle to Percy, and the other bottle will be a gift for you." Ron was caught off guard by this sudden move and didn't know how to respond for a moment. He held the 2 bottles of unicorn blood tightly in his arms, with an expression of surprise and embarrassment on his face. Soon Christmas came, and Harry received an unexpected gift, the invisibility cloak. The card only said that it was something his father left behind, and there was no signature. Harry also began his night life. That night, he wore the invisibility cloak and wandered around Hogwarts alone. He felt that this was a gift from his father, and he wanted to enjoy it alone for the first time. Suddenly he heard Snape threatening Quirrell in the corner, "Don't bother me anymore." Harry was so scared that he ran away immediately, as if he had heard a terrible secret. By accident, he entered a room with only a large mirror in it, the Mirror of Erist, and reading it backwards meant, "I show you not your face, but the desire of your heart." Harry saw his parents inside and was overjoyed. He felt that his parents must be like the ghosts in the castle, guarding him. He was so excited that he had never seen his parents before, and he wanted to share this joy with his good friends. "That's right," he called Rowling and Ron. When Rowling followed Harry to the place, he found out that it was the legendary Mirror of Desire. Harry couldn't hide his excitement, and his voice trembled with excitement. "Did you see it? Those are my parents." Rowling, standing by, silently watched Harry's ecstatic look, and couldn't bear to burst this beautiful illusion. After all, this moment might be the happiest moment in Harry's life in the past 11 years. At the same time, Ron could not contain his joy and shouted, "I saw in the mirror that I became the captain of the Quidditch team." However, Harry couldn't help feeling confused. Why couldn't other people see their parents? In response to Harry's question, Rowling replied softly, "Perhaps your parents just want you to appreciate their existence alone." He knew very well that on the day when Voldemort was reborn, Harry's parents appeared beside him. Maybe this is not a fantasy but reality. Afterwards, Llewellyn did not look at the mirror. It was meaningless to him. Every night after that, Harry would come here and look at his parents in front of the Mirror of Erist. And Dumbledore had to show up and tell Harry the truth. Even though he was very sad inside, Harry returned to the days of accepting reality. The 3 giants met again in the Gryffindor common room, and put together their encounter with Snape threatening Quirrell and their own conclusions, such as Snape's ability to refine the water of life and death and the Philosopher's Stone could grant immortality, to show that Snape was the culprit behind the scenes. Rowling was listening to Harry's serious nonsense. After all, the longer he was serious, the longer he would be slapped in the face. When he learned that Dumbledore was not at Hogwarts today, he knew that Voldemort was going to take action. Harry also realized this. They all headed for the secret room on the 3rd floor. Rowling found an excuse and didn't go there. He knew that this was a time to train Harry Potter and he didn't want to get involved. But he still put on his shadow and followed silently from behind. When Harry finally saw Quirrell instead of Snape, he realized how much pain his face was. At this time, Luo Lin came to Ron and performed a simple healing spell on him. Ron had a broken bone and needed a bone spirit, but Luo Lin had no way to help him at the moment. Harry took a deep breath and resolutely stepped into the last level. He was full of determination and courage, determined to stop Snape's evil deeds. However, when he finally arrived at his destination, he was shocked by the scene before him. The person standing in front of the Ursa E magic mirror was not Snape, but the seemingly ordinary Professor Quirrell. Harry stared at the man in front of him with his eyes wide open in disbelief. It turned out that the culprit who had been stealing from Gringotts Wizarding Bank was Professor Quirrell. Since the Philosopher's Stone had been taken away by Hagrid in advance, Quirrell came up with a plan and decided to release the ferocious giant monster on Halloween in an attempt to distract everyone's attention and steal the Philosopher's Stone. But he never expected that his plot had already been discovered and blocked by the alert and sharp Snape. That was why Harry accidentally saw Snape's calf injury. From that time on, Snape lost all trust in Quirrell and almost never allowed him to wander around the campus alone. Faced with this dilemma, Quirrell had to rack his brains to find another way out. Finally, he came up with a brilliant plan. Disguised as a mysterious man and using the dragon egg as bait, he successfully got the secret of pacifying the three-headed dog from the simple and kind Hagrid. Then, while Dumbledore was out and Snape was not prepared, Quirrell sneaked into the Chamber of Secrets. Although Quirrell can clearly see the coveted Philosopher's Stone in the Ursa E mirror, no matter how hard he tries, he can never really get this rare treasure. It seems that there is an invisible force protecting the Philosopher's Stone, keeping it at a distance from Quirrell. Chapter 50. Head Stealing. When Quirrell saw Harry Potter coming, he immediately asked Harry to stand in front of the mirror. At this moment, something strange happened. Harry in the mirror smiled, took out the Philosopher's Stone and put it in his pocket. Then he felt something really fall into his pocket. Seeing this, Quirrell immediately asked Harry what he saw, but Harry lied and said that he saw Dumbledore shaking hands with him. Quirrell's voice in the sea immediately exposed Harry's lie, and then asked him to take off his turban, and he wanted to interrogate him personally. Harry made a quick decision and turned around without hesitation, trying to escape from this terrible scene. However, what he didn't expect was that Quirrell just flicked his finger, and a blazing wall of fire instantly rose from the ground, like an insurmountable wall of steel, blocking Harry's way. Before Harry could come to his senses, Quirrell rushed over like a hungry tiger, and threw Harry to the ground in a flash. In an instant, the situation became precarious, as if the whole world had frozen at this moment. At the critical moment, Harry instinctively stretched out his hands to try to resist Quirrell's attack. The moment his palms touched the opponent's arm, a powerful and mysterious force suddenly erupted. That was the loving protection spell that Harry's mother left for him. This power was like a surging torrent, unstoppable, and it actually turned one of Quirrell's hands into an extremely hard stone. When he saw that Quirrell was getting weaker, Rowling stopped hiding and wanted to kill him. A combination spell burst out from his wand, an enhanced version of the explosion spell and the purification spell, hitting Quirrell together. Not long after, Professor Quirrell, who had merged with Voldemort, began to suffer a severe backlash. He let out extremely shrill screams, and his body was shaky like a candle in the wind. Finally, with a thrilling wail, Chi Luo turned into ashes, his body turned into a pile of dust. But a black mist rushed out and quickly fled. When Rowling wanted to stop the black fog, it was too late, but there were foreign objects left in Quirrell's ashes, which turned out to be 2 high-level magic cores of the Soul System. It seemed that Voldemort's main soul was indeed seriously injured and only the remaining soul escaped. After experiencing such a thrilling scene, Harry fainted due to physical exhaustion and high mental tension. At this moment, Luo Lin suddenly felt something was wrong. The wall of fire did not go out, but became more and more intense. "Be careful, Rowling, this is the fire cloud deck," Xiao Ke said anxiously. In an instant, Luo Lin's nerves were tense to the extreme, because he knew very well that what he saw before his eyes was fire, one of the 4 elements. The blazing flames seemed to devour the entire world. At the same time, the cloud cards that had been hidden finally revealed their true colors. A red elf that looked like the incarnation of fire suddenly appeared in front of Luo Lin. This mysterious elf hung high above the sea of fire, emitting a powerful breath that made people's hearts flutter. Faced with such a fierce fire, Luo Lin did not dare to be negligent. He quickly used his most proficient magic skills and summoned a sealing staff that shone with strange light. Then, he took out the rain card without hesitation and injected magic into it. Instantly, a heavy rain started in the secret room, but surprisingly, this heavy rain seemed to have no effect on the raging fire. Seeing the situation becoming increasingly critical, Luo Lin was extremely anxious. He took a deep breath and shouted loudly, "Water Spirit, please obey my call and come to put out this raging fire. At the same time, Wind Spirit, please go quickly and use your invisible power to restrain this terrible flame." Before he finished speaking, a clear spring gushed out from the cloud card, turning into a crystal clear water dragon, rushing straight towards the raging sea of fire. At the same time, a gust of wind came howling, tightly wrapping around the body of the fire spirit, trying to stop it from spreading further. As time went by, Luo Lin clearly felt the endless flow of magic power in his body rushing into the sealing staff in his hand like a flood. This unprecedented feeling made him excited and nervous, but he always believed that as long as he persisted, he would be able to overcome the difficulties in front of him. Sure enough, not long after, the arrogant fire elf finally couldn't withstand the double attack of water and wind, and fell to the ground. Cloud card, return to your original form. Luo Lin was panting at this moment, while Xiao Ke was watching all this excitedly. When he saw the fire card being captured, Xiao Ke felt his magic power growing rapidly. At the same time, a small flame appeared on his finger. The fire magic power in Xiao Ke's body was restored. Luo Lin couldn't help but feel happy. The capture of the fire card restored peace to the entire secret room. Rolling breathed a sigh of relief and looked at the sealing wand in his hand, his heart filled with a sense of accomplishment. He turned and walked towards the unconscious Harry, gently helping him up. Taking the Philosopher's Stone from his pocket, a blood-red gem appeared in Rolling's hand. Is this the Philosopher's Stone? Rolling felt the almost infinitesimal energy fluctuations inside. He instantly realized that either this was a fake, or the Philosopher's Stone was indeed about to be scrapped. Rolling instantly lost interest. He put it back into Harry's pocket and sent him to the infirmary. After a while, Harry slowly opened his eyes and looked at everything around him, feeling a little confused. You succeeded, Harry. Rolling said with a smile. Quirrell and Voldemort were defeated by you again. Harry then remembered what had happened before and a hint of fear flashed in his eyes. Don't worry, everything is over. Luo Lin comforted. Yes, it's all over, said Ron, who was lying next to him tied up like a mummy. Thank you, Rolling, Harry said gratefully. We are friends, no need to be so polite. Rolling smiled and patted Harry's shoulder. At this moment, Dumbledore walked into the ward. You three did a great job, especially you, Rolling. Dumbledore praised. However, you should protect yourself first when you encounter danger in the future. Yes, Headmaster Dumbledore. Rolling nodded. See you tomorrow then. Rolling said goodbye to Harry and Ron and left the infirmary. After that thrilling battle, the evil force of Quirrell was finally completely defeated, and Hogwarts was able to enjoy a rare period of peace. However, new challenges and opportunities are often hidden under the calm. Professor Snape naturally took over the remaining defense against the dark arts teaching tasks. His stern and mysterious image made the students both awed and looked forward to this course. At the same time, our brave but ill-fated little hero, Harry Potter, was still in dire straits. In the potion class, Harry unfortunately became the focus of Professor Snape's venom attack. Whenever Professor Snape's sharp eyes swept across the classroom, Harry could feel a chill coming towards him.